right, as David Letterman said, as the host of the 67th Oscars ceremony, please hold on to your wigs and your keys, because it's time to start revising the Academy Awards. My name is Andrew Corns, and I welcome you back to the Revisionist Almanac, the show that is like a box of chocolates. You just never know what you're going to get. So let's get busy living, or let's get busy dying. Now, it's hard to believe, but this is the midway point in Season 1, and I thought what better way to celebrate than not to have one, not two, but three guests on for this special occasion. So without further ado, let me introduce you to the holy trinity of movie podcasting and three of my favorite people on the planet. It's Adam St. John, it's Britt Reinholz-Hobson, and it's Joey Rogate, the 1001 by 1 podcast crew. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having us. Can I just say I call Holy Ghost? I am obviously the ghost of the podcast.
I was going to let you all decide on your Trinity position.
It's a great nickname. Great nickname.
I'll go ahead and be frankincense.
Perfect. Yep. There you go.
I figured what better people to call the Holy Trinity than the three most religious people I can think of. So there you are.
Super religious.
I'm so excited to have you guys on.
Joey and I at least have the Catholic
prayer.
guilt, but you know.
We do have to get a prayer in.
I'm not even sure I know what religion is, so.
Don't worry, people who believe in it don't either.
I thought we were keeping things more in control this month, but I guess not.
That's your
coming out
fault.
hot.
That's your fault.
You invited us on. You knew what was going to happen.
That's true. Pure chaos from the Chaos Monsters. Okay, so for anyone that might be listening right now who isn't familiar with your show, and shame on them, why don't you tell me exactly what you do over on your channel, Adam?
Yeah, so 1001 by 1 is a podcast that is all about taking the films out of the book, 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die, which goes all the way back to the beginning of film and spans all genre and countries and styles. And each time we get on, we take a film and we break it down. We talk about, its history and who's in it and how it was made and all that good stuff. And after, an hour to 2 hours of chatting about the film, we kind of ultimately decide whether or not we feel like that movie is worthy of its place in the book or not. And if it doesn't, then we all come up with suggestions for movies that it should be replaced with. And it's a good time.
And you guys know, I've said it before on air, off air, you're one of my favorite shows, maybe the one I listen to most frequently. So I'm thrilled to have you guys on. You cover so much in the book that it's always nice to go to your guys' show because you're never going to get pigeonholed into like one thing. You guys will cover, goodness, Jean Dielman and then Evil Dead in the space of, a season. So you're all over the place. So it's nice to, everyone has an entry point in 1001 by 1. So if you don't listen to the show, head over there and check them out. We'll talk about you guys more at the end too. But as a reminder, this show looks back on past Academy Awards ceremonies with the luxury of hindsight to determine what should have actually won the Oscar for Best Picture, Best Director, and the 4 categories in acting. Now, before we start things off, I hope you'll take the time to rate and review the channel on whatever podcast streaming platform you're listening on, as well as finding and following the show on every social media platform using the handle @RevAlmanac. You guys ready to dive into 94?
Sure.
Apparently.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's quickly, before we get into the categories, let's take a temperature of the room. So without potentially spoiling anything coming up later in the episode, what were your biggest takeaways from this year after watching a myriad of films in very close proximity? Now, I think I know where Britt stands because she actually became the very first guest to send in a question for her own episode.
That's amazing. You could have asked it while we were all here together, Britt.
Leave it to Britt to drop it well in advance. And
I think that I have been very clear about the fact that I don't follow prompts and I don't want to do what people expect me to do. So of course I'm going to send it in because it was on my mind right when you asked that question. So I was like, yeah, I'll send something in. I'll send you a snarky little comment.
Well, I have to let everyone who's listening in on the snarky comment because it was wonderful.
Absolutely.
It's the perfect way to start things off. So Britt asked, why do half of the films in 1994 feel like they belong on the Hallmark Channel? Would you care to elaborate?
Oh, this is a there are some real high highs in 1994. There's some really beautiful, innovative films. I found some that I probably would never have watched if we hadn't done this episode, and they're now in my top favorite films. But there are also so many films that are kind of baffling, and I do not understand how they were even recognized at the Academy, let alone we now have to talk about them. And they're just weird, just a weird smattering of movies in 1994.
Well, let's try not to talk about the ones that maybe we were nominated. Actually, I have a feeling that might happen. There are a few I can think of that I'm certainly not going to talk about at all. Maybe you three will, but we'll find out. Joey, how did you take the year as a whole as you dug into prep?
Yeah, but, looking at it, there were so many movies that I've seen 100 times before that, maybe aren't awards worthy, but should be, like Airheads. And, I've seen these movies so many times, and then there's just some great movies. And like Britt said, there's just some of them that were nominated that as I was watching, I was really frustrated because there's really good movies that didn't get nominated, and then just things that no one who is in it remembers it exists anymore got nominated. So it was a very weird year. The highs, though, were super high, and I had a lot of fun with it. And I found things I hadn't seen before that ended up getting nominated for things. So, and I got to, rewatch The Scout again. So that is a win.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Little Big League was definitely the go-to rewatch for me. So I'm glad we got to dive into that one. Adam, how about yourself? How did you find 1994 after taking this deep plunge?
This is where Britt and I are simpatico, because that was exactly how I felt. I felt like after watching some of these movies, I had to make sure that I had watched a movie and that I wasn't currently on the Lifetime channel. Because I mean, honestly, you take away some of the star power that drives these movies, and we're talking about something that you would see, on a Thursday at 3 p.m. on Lifetime. So it's really interesting what was determined to be credible awards-worthy cinema back in 94. And yes, like the 5 movies that I have in my Best Picture slot are movies that I will watch any day, anytime. And then there are some other movies where I'm like, I'm glad to say that I finally watched it, but I also will never go back to it.
Yeah, for sure. My biggest takeaway from the entire prep is I'm going to use a quote from Joey on the 1981 episode a couple of months ago. Joey, you told me at the time, restraint is a thing. And that's a lesson I'm going to take upon myself, because I foolishly decided I was going to watch 100 movies for prep on this mega mid-season special. And somewhere between a Jean-Claude Van Damme double feature with a Steven Seagal movie mixed in there, I was like, I have taken this to its furthest conclusion, and I'm never going this far out into the waters again. So I promise any listeners I'm never going down that path again.
Wait, so Street Fighter didn't do it for you?
It was a heck of a lot better than On Deadly Ground. I don't know if anyone else wasted their time with that thing.
No, not on this time around. No, but yes.
Yeah.
Street Fighter, but at least you get Raul Julia.
Yeah.
There was some good stuff. There was some fun.
You were just broken at that point.
Yeah.
That was like 80 or 90 movies into and then shout out to Seth Vargas. And when I hit 100, friend of the show over on Movie Friends said, you got to watch Clifford, which is a movie I'd never seen before with Martin Short. And I instantly regretted ever giving Seth the satisfaction of me watching that movie. So,
wait, Clifford the dog movie?
No, this is a much different Clifford film. I would not recommend it.
I think I know which film it is, but I did not watch that.
Smart. You guys were wiser than myself. I will definitely agree with the three of you that there were a lot of films this year that just felt like stodgy and heavy-handed, and I think Hallmark Lifetime is probably the best way to describe some of them. And Tom and Viv comes to mind. There's a couple of others. I don't want to necessarily. Okay. So for anyone who's listening who isn't following on 1001 by 1, Britt, do you like doing lists?
No, I fucking hate lists.
I don't think that's true anymore. I think you need to revisit that.
I can't
revisiting
revisit
things
it.
here, Britt.
Okay, here's the deal. I am a stubborn brat, and now that people think I don't think that I do like lists, I have to just dig my heels in even more. I'm not going to do what anybody says. So I'm going to pretend I really hate lists still. It's a good gag. But I did put a couple down.
Okay, so hit us with your list.
Okay, my list of like absolutely these would show up on the Hallmark Channel would be Blue Sky, Nell, Nobody's Fool, and Tom and Viv.
Boom. That's it. That's perfect.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yep. Perfect.
And I will say, there are two that I genuinely like. They're good movies, but they could probably end up there. And that would be Eat, Drink, Man, Woman, which I thought was great, but also pretty cheesy. And then I think Forrest Gump might end up on there.
Heyo. Heyo.
Wow.
Drive by on Forrest right out of the gate.
And that's not saying anything bad about Forrest Gump. We will talk about that later. But I'm just saying, those were ones that I was like, might also go in there. But the four I said first, absolutely Hallmark films. Throw that shit out.
And it seems like you two, Adam and Joey, are in agreement with the list that Britt just dropped on us there.
She nailed it.
Yeah, big time.
Nailed it.
I'm definitely with you all on that. Now,
You're welcome.
List maven.
and that's not even the end of the Brit lists tonight, potentially. So we'll see what happens over the next few hours. So if you had to pull out a worst movie of prep, maybe it's one of the ones you've already named. Do any of you have a absolutely bottom of the barrel, this is the worst thing I watched? Britt, you look like you're ready to jump in right away.
I'll wait. I've got to
Okay.
think about it for a second. I have like
Adam,
5.
Adam, you look like you're maybe ready to go.
So because the word stubborn has come up, I generally will finish any movie that I start because I feel like I've committed the time to doing it, and it's not a practice I like to do. The last time I gave up on a movie was Baz Luhrmann's Australia, and I gave up on it about 30 to 40 minutes in. I was like, this stinks and I'm done. And I will say that there was a movie for this prep that I did.
Ooh.
And it probably isn't the one that you're thinking of. Little Women bored me to tears.
Whoa.
And I quit. I quit halfway through.
Adam, we're fighting. I
was
can't
so
believe
done.
you.
Yes.
I was so done and bored. God, I was so bored.
Okay, I will say, I also think that Little Women could end up on the Hallmark Channel. Like, let's be real.
It's on it. It's on it right now.
But
Literally.
it is my Little Women. It is the Little Women I grew up with. And so it will hold a special place in my heart no matter what. I freaking love that film. But I do kind of understand what you mean, Adam. But we're still fighting because how dare you? How dare you, sir?
I'll hold. We've got a lot of little women questions at the end, so I will kind of hold some of.
Of course
my,
we do.
we do. I'll hold some of
Thank
my
God.
thoughts on that.
I'm so
Joey,
happy.
do you have a worst movie that you watched?
Tom and Viv's one of the worst things I've ever watched. In my life.
Even like Willem couldn't save it.
He's the only thing that kept it on. I did not enjoy any of it.
Yeah, I think that was a Tubi watch, if I'm not mistaken. It was
Yes.
a hard one because we got all the commercials.
I love Tubi. The commercial, that was one where the commercials just did not do it any favors because I was so entertained during the commercials, and it would come back and it would just be so
Them sitting on a
devastatingly
bench
uninterested.
by the lake, yeah, just doing shit.
Right, and then the commercial would be like, sprint! And then,
Yeah, for sure. And Britt, what about you? You have a terrible movie that you watched?
I have a couple, but the one that really pissed me off was Blue Sky. I really hated Blue Sky.
that was like my runner-up.
It was I actually did stop it and tried not to finish it. And then I came back to it and I finished it begrudgingly, but I was like, I'm done with this film. I want to put it away and never think about it again.
It was a confusing film. First time watch for me as well. I had not seen that. It just like slipped under my radar. I'll save my Blue Sky takes for Jessica Lange when we get to Best Actress here in a little bit. I'll give you my two clear bottom of the barrel, and I assume none of the three of you watched any of these movies, because if you did, they'd be on your list. Number one was It's Pat. Does anyone remember It's Pat, the old SNL?
No.
Okay, so when that came out, I remember my cousin bought it on VHS, and halfway through we took it out of the VHS and threw footballs at it in the backyard. That's my memory of that movie.
It's so bad. I mean, the SNL skit's kind of amusing in like a 3-minute form, but to stretch that over 90 minutes or whatever the hell they tried to do, it's rough. And especially when you look at it 30 years later. Didn't
Right.
necessarily age well an androgynous character like that, where you're poking fun.
That
at
was
the
always
gender.
the butt of the joke.
Right.
It's like doing everything the wrong way. Yes.
And the other one was Rob Reiner's North. I legitimately compartmentalized it out of my brain and existence because I love Rob Reiner. And when I got back to that, I'm like, what in the fuck is this thing? Like, this is did you guys watch North? Any of you?
I did.
I didn't rewatch it, but
Okay,
I've seen it.
I have never seen it.
It is dreadful.
Yeah, I remember liking it as a kid, and then I was watching it now, and I was like, "Oh, past Joey was an idiot."
I mean, it like derailed Rob Reiner.
It's so bad. It's so
so
upsettingly bad.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I give him credit for ambition because I think he was coming off A Few Good Men a couple of years prior.
Hell of a run.
He was on that. He was on that like all-time run, and then North just was like Elijah Wood and
Great cast.
The cast is ridiculous. I can't imagine what they spent on the budget, but Jesus Christ, what came out of that thing? Not good. Okay, so that's kind of a little preamble for what's to come. Let's now get into the categories. Before we do get into the categories, though, it's worth mentioning that if Adam, Britt, Joey, and myself all agree with who actually won the Oscar for any of the 6 categories, that selection will skip the online vote and get automatic entry into the Almanac. The odds of that happening, though, I feel like are very, very, very low. Getting 4 of us to agree with the Academy on anything.
I would be impressed if that happened, but
That'd be
just
amazing.
highly doubt it.
I can't think of a single category where that's going to happen. I don't feel like the stars are going to align for us on this one, but we'll find out. However, with this being the first episode with 3 guests, I do have a surprise addition to the overall format of the show.
Oh,
that
fuck!
This is going to come into play on all future episodes with 3 guests, of which there will be several this year and next. Because there are 4 of us giving nominations plus the actual Oscar winner, there's the potential for 5 different winner selections in each category, which just doesn't work for online social media polls, which limit options to 4. And I was racking my brain for how to make this logistically work. I couldn't get it together. I have to give all the credit to Joey for coming up with this idea, which in my this is a genius idea, Joey. So
I think this
is
in a while.
This is going to put some pressure on all of us when we get to our picks.
Oh, God.
So here is the new rule for how these shows will work with 3 guests. If we get to the end of a category and none of the 4 of us have selected the actual Oscar winner as our revised pick, that winner will immediately be wiped off the board and not even allowed to participate in the online voting against our 4 picks.
Thank God. I thought we were going to go battle royale on this, and I was like, oh no. Oh no.
No, we Joey brought this to the table. I thought it was a great idea. If the 4 of us collectively all come up with different things, I believe all of those things deserve better recognition and a chance at the online vote over whatever happened to win the Oscar that year. Based on what we know won the Oscar that year, I think this is going to come into play at some point. We'll find out. Everyone feel good about the rule?
Yeah.
Yes.
I love it.
And I'm sorry for the outburst I had moments ago.
That was amazing.
That was beautiful.
That needs to be
That's
going
to get isolated.
Yeah, that needs to be the first. That needs to be the first video clip you put out.
That's kicking off the teaser for sure.
Yes.
All right.
Salty Adam back.
All right, Evil Dead. Let's go.
Let's go. This is actually just an episode about Evil Dead.
Gotcha.
And he's gone.
That's fine. Joey and I can talk for ages about Evil Dead.
Let's go.
All right, well, let's get into the Best Supporting Actress category to start things off. So the actual nominees for 1994 in Best Supporting Actress were Jennifer Tilly for Bullets Over Broadway, Helen Mirren for The Madness of King George, Uma Thurman for Pulp Fiction, Rosemary Harris for Tom and Viv, and the winner that year was Diane Wiest for Bullets Over Broadway. Now, Joey, since you've featured on a past episode and you know the way things go, I'm going to have you start off the category. So why don't you hit us with your nominees and your winning pick?
Yes, sir. All right, so this is not in order. It's just the order I wrote it down. First, Diane Wiest, Bullets Over Broadway. Tanya Pinkins, Above the Rim. Sally Fields, Forrest Gump. Kirsten Dunst, Interview with the Vampire. Uma Thurman, Pulp Fiction. Those are my nominees. And my winner is Uma Thurman, Pulp Fiction.
Was there any possible other person that was going to get the win for you, or was it Uma pretty strongly all the way?
Kirsten Dunst was all in there.
Okay.
I really love Kirsten Dunst in Interview with the Vampire. So she was in there, but it was pretty hard to get Uma Thurman not the win there for me.
Is there something specific about Uma in Pulp Fiction that just kind of, moves the needle up for you?
I just don't think she has a miss scene. I think she brings a whole different energy to the movie that's just fantastic the entire time through.
Okay. Anyone that was, if you had to give like an honorable mention, maybe the first person out, was there somebody you wanted to maybe give a little bit of recognition to who just didn't sneak in for you?
Julia Louis-Dreyfus from North. No, I'm joking. Angelica Houston, Manhattan Murder Mystery. She was, I liked her in that. I don't think it hit it. I don't feel bad about not putting her in there. But if it was somebody, it would have been her.
All right. Well, we got Uma Thurman on the board. Adam, let's turn it over to you now for your nominees and your winner.
Okay. Heavenly Creatures, I have Kate Winslet. Pulp Fiction, I have Uma Thurman. From Bullets Over Broadway, Diane Wiest. From Four Weddings and a Funeral, Kristen Scott Thomas. And my winner, Sandra Bullock in Speed.
Yes!
That is a shocking win.
She's so good in Speed.
Oh my God. It's fucking amazing. The Wildcat.
All right, I'm going to give you the floor for a minute. Hit me with why Sandra gets your win.
So I feel like movies like this frequently get overlooked for performances, and what I love about her character is that it's so reactionary and yet totally believable. And again, I love actors who get to have a full range of emotions, right? So she gets to be funny and sarcastic at the beginning, and then she has to take over the bus. I believe her. Like, there are multiple moments where she gets pushed to tears, and I absolutely believe her emotional state in the movie. Uma Thurman was, of course, a very, very close second for me in this, but this launched Sandra Bullock, and I don't think she misses a beat. I think she is so good in this movie, and Keanu's being Keanu all the way through, and nothing against Dennis Hopper, but he's something else. Sandra Bullock is your constant in this movie, and she is great.
I love it because action so rarely gets actually mentioned when it comes to like Oscars prestige awards and things like that. So I am definitely on board with just a bona fide action banger getting a nomination. So we've got Uma Thurman from Joey. We've got Sandra Bullock from Adam. Adam, any honorable mentions you want to give a shout out to? Somebody that was just also in contention?
Yeah, I felt like if the part had been written a little bit better, Helen Mirren was my odd one out for Madison King George, and I liked her. I just didn't think she was in it enough, personally.
Yeah. I love that you picked Sandra Bullock. I'm so happy. I think we can finish. That was amazing. I think we're only downhill from here.
I thought I had Uma in like concrete over here because I just thought for sure that was going to be the one.
Yeah.
But there you go. That's what happens on the Almanac. All right, Britt, over to you. Who do you got for nominees and winner?
Well, I truly don't expect anybody to ever vote for any of my winners in this. Just putting that out there right now. But it's fun so far. I'm happy with what people have said. So my choices, anyways, continuing on. I have, and this is not in any particular order. Actually, it is. It's in alphabetical order. I lied.
It's a very particular order.
Yeah, it is. So I have Helen Mirren for The Madness of King George. I have Kirsten Dunst for Interview with a Vampire. I have Kristen Scott Thomas for Four Weddings and a Funeral. I have Uma Thurman for Pulp Fiction. And I have Verna Lisi for Queen Margot. And I do have Verna Lisi winning for Queen Margot.
Okay, help me out. Who did she play?
No problem. She played Catherine de' Medici. And Catherine de' Medici is such an interesting historical figure. She has she's so over the top and fascinating, and she's been discussed and torn apart, and people have made up so many lies about her, but they could be true as well. Did she really give somebody poison gloves that killed them? We don't know. And I thought she was just fantastic in Queen Margot. I loved her portrayal of this queen who's trying to keep her family together, and it's, oh God, I just loved it. I thought she was incredible. And for me, she's the winner.
I'm happy that we had you on, Britt, because if not for you, Queen Margot wouldn't even have ever come across my radar.
Same.
And that was, I will hold some of my thoughts as well on that movie because it might come up in other places. I will say I'm happy that I got around to it because I did not expect to enjoy it as much as I did. So thank you
glad.
For it. It was an excellent movie. Obviously, it has Isabella Gianni, who is a revised Oscars winner from a past episode, and we may be talking about her in a little bit. Britt, any honorable mentions for you that just kind of were outside?
It's Sandra Bullock in Speed, to be perfectly honest. Like,
Yes.
I love Speed. Also, Jennifer Tilly. I thought her performance in Bullets Over Broadway was fantastic. I thought it was better than Diane Weiss personally. But I hate Bullets Over Broadway so much that I could not give her a nomination.
Is it a
Fair.
Woody Allen thing or just like a...
It's an everything thing. Everything about that movie I hate.
I'm with you. I do not care for Bullets Over Broadway very much. I'm not going to hold my tongue on that one.
Yeah, I did not want to watch it. Did, and I was like, well, I still hate it. Great.
I liked it. I liked it quite a bit, actually.
Well,
It felt like an Adam movie, and not in a bad way. But
Oh, now what the fuck
Adam
does
has
that mean?
bad taste, apparently. Just kidding. I think you have great taste, Adam.
it
I'm gonna
felt like a
slam
movie.
my beer.
I know how much you love the theater and everything, and it felt like a movie that it's on the page. Well, I know you do too, Britt.
So do I.
I know.
We met doing theater.
But it felt a little more up Adam's alley from what I've gathered based on what I know of your movie tastes. So, but hey, we're all going to disagree on stuff. That's what happens.
Damn right.
Okay. So we got Verna Lisi from Britt. We've got Sandra Bullock from Adam, and we've got Uma Thurman from Joey. We'll go over to me really quickly. So my nominees from 94 were both Robin Wright and Sally Field from Forrest Gump. I thought they both were in the supporting section. I don't know if any of you put Robin in lead actress. I had them both in supporting. I've got Melanie Linsky from Heavenly Creatures. That's a movie I'm a really big fan of, and I think Melanie Linsky carries a lot of that movie even more than Kate Winslet. I've got Jennifer Jason Leigh for The Hudsucker Proxy. I think that movie's really stupid. It's one of the worst Coen movies that I can think of. But Jennifer Jason Leigh does quite a bit in that movie, and she's just fantastic in everything. And so I had to give her props for making that movie somewhat tolerable. And then my fifth nomination goes to Uma Thurman for Pulp Fiction. This one came down to Robin Wright and Uma Thurman for me. And at the end of the day, I had to go with the one that I thought carried the movie over the other. It's Uma Thurman for me. I think that she's so explosive, even though her screen time's relatively short when you think about the grand scheme of things. I love Uma. I've had that pick locked in quite a while, and just going back and rewatching Pulp Fiction kind of reinforced that for sure. So I've got Uma Thurman taking it just like Joey, which means that we will actually have 4 different actresses going to the online polls for this one. Now, really quickly, Diane Weiss, she came up a few times in the nominations. Anything anyone wants to say about her necessarily?
I love Diane Weiss. She was my favorite part about that movie that I didn't love, but I liked her in it whenever she was around. So Diane Weiss is always a friendly, a welcome presence.
Adam,
Yeah.
Britt, Diane Weiss love?
Yeah, I liked her in the movie too. But like Britt said, I also like Jennifer Tilly. And I can understand not being a big fan of the movie. I actually am really charmed by most of the performances in it. He's not going to come up in the next category, but I actually really love Jim Broadbent in Bullets Over Broadway as well. So I think the ensemble works really well in Bullets Over Broadway.
I like the actors in Bullets Over Broadway a lot. I just feel like it's not a cohesive film for me, and I think that everything is over the top in a way that I did not enjoy, which is wild considering the movies I usually enjoy. So,
Well, usually like very grounded.
oh yeah. Mhm. I mean, I do like slow cinema a lot,
Slow
but I
cinema.
also
You
like
do,
anime.
okay.
So like, let's be real here. I do like over the top shit. But it probably is, honestly, it probably is the Woody Allen thing that just like, I already didn't like the movie and then it's Woody Allen. So, it's going to tank.
Yeah, it's about how I feel. I'm not a huge
Stubborn.
Woody Allen guy. I think Diane Wiest does perfectly fine in what she's doing there. I'm not going to knock her at all. I think
This
she's
is also a
wonderful
good
actress.
category, so you always need reasons to knock people out of things. So whatever it is, it helps.
This was one of my favorite categories to look for.
Okay. I wish I could have gotten Kirsten Dunst into my 6. Into my 5. She was my number 6. I think considering her age and what she's doing in that movie, she's carrying a lot of it. Surprised none of you mentioned Patricia Arquette and Ed Wood. That was kind of on the bubble for me. I really liked what Patricia did in that film.
She's really good in that movie.
Yeah. So, okay.
Her and Sarah Jessica Parker, actually. I think they both are pretty good.
Yeah, everything about Ed Wood kind of clicks with me, especially going back on the rewatch. We'll see if it comes up for the 3 of you at any point down the road. So, again, when we go to the social media poll for Best Supporting Actress, you're going to have 4 options in this one. You can go with the Academy, who has Diane Wiest from Bullets Over Broadway. You can go with Joey and my pick, Uma Thurman from Pulp Fiction. You can go with Adam's pick, who has the need for Sandra Bullock in Speed. Or you can go with Britt, who has Verna Lisi in Queen Margot. Good category battle there. Britt, you might get a few percentage points.
I was going to say, it's a 3-way battle there, and I'm just there for the beer.
All right, let's jump over to supporting actor now. Okay, so the 94 supporting actor nominees were Chaz Palminteri for Bullets Over Broadway, Gary Sinise for Forrest Gump, Samuel L. Jackson for Pulp Fiction, Paul Scofield for Quiz Show, and claiming the Oscar was Martin Landau for Ed Wood. Adam, we're going to turn it over to you first on this one. So who do you have nominated? Who do you have winning?
All right, here we go. To mention some of the actual nominees from that year. So I do also have Chaz Palminteri from Bullets Over Broadway. I do have Martin Landau from Ed Wood. From Quiz Show, I have Ray Fiennes. From Leon the Professional, I have Gary Oldman. But I'm a mushroom cloud laying motherfucker. And so I am going with Samuel L. Jackson from Pulp Fiction as the obvious winner of this category.
Never a doubt for you?
Not even for a fucking minute, no.
I figured that was the case for sure. For anyone who's listening right now, Adam's wearing a Pulp Fiction shirt, so his loyalties are right on his chest. Any honorable mentions for you that just were outside of the top 5?
Yeah, so I felt like I only had room for one psychopathic supporting role, and so that's why Dennis Hopper did not make my list. I went with Gary Oldman instead. And I really, really wanted to find a way, and this will be the last time I mention this movie. I really wanted to find a way to get John Hannah from 4 Weddings and a Funeral onto my list, and I just couldn't do it. I just all these other performances were performances I just dug more.
Yeah, this is a huge category with a lot of quality in there, at least from what I saw in the prep work. Britt, we're going to jump over to you next on this one. So, who do you have nominated and winning in supporting actor?
All right. In alphabetical order again, I have Dennis Hopper from Speed. I have Jeremy Irons from The Lion King. I have John Hannah from 4 Weddings and a Funeral. Amazing. 4 Weddings and a Funeral, man. I'm gonna defend that movie to the end of my life, I think. From Ed Wood, I have Martin Landau. And my winner, without a shadow of a doubt, is Samuel L. Jackson from Pulp Fiction. There is no other person that could take that away from Samuel L. Jackson in my mind. I watched that movie and I'm like, Jesus Christ, I think Samuel L. Jackson might be the best actor I've ever seen. Like, I would follow him to the end of the world as that character. I love him. He should have won. Martin Landau's amazing. And when I watched Ed Wood, I was like, yeah, this is a great win. Like, I'm on board with it. And then I rewatched Pulp Fiction and I immediately texted Adam. I was like, why is this movie perfect? So, I had to go there. But I did get John Hannah in there because, God, I cried so hard. During his speech.
I'm not on the 4 Weddings train. I can't pretend I enjoy that
it's been
movie.
nice being friends with both of you, but
I don't hate it. I was forced to watch it as a kid, and I remember It was rented. I wanted something else, and my mom wanted that, and I lost. And I think I've just held it against it for 20 years, 30 years.
There's
Christ,
something
that
about
was
Hugh
30
Grant that
years
just
ago.
doesn't sit well with me. I don't know why.
That's because he's a dick.
Yeah, it's the smugness, I guess. Yeah,
There's so many other great performances, though. Just ignore him if you can.
it's very challenging. He's in it a lot.
I mean, he is the star, I guess. So
So Britt, it's obviously not surprising that Sam Jackson didn't actually win the Oscar that year. It's such like a renegade role, but
yeah, but
I
I feel like they were like, okay, Martin Landau, we're going to give it to him because it's like his, it was more so for his body of work than
so
it
it's
was
a legacy achievement.
Yes, exactly. I feel like they do that a lot with Best Supporting.
Well,
And
it's a legacy achievement playing one of the pillars of old Hollywood. I
Right.
mean,
exactly, which is
Yeah.
like that's fine. I'm happy with that, and I think it's a beautiful thing. But also Sam Jackson. So
Yeah, it's hard to argue with Sam. Okay, so you both are on the Sam Jackson train. So let's see if we can keep the train chugging along. We're going to go over to my nominations for Best Supporting Actor. So I've got Martin Landau in Ed Wood. I think it's it's deserving of a nomination. I have no problem with Martin Landau being nominated for Ed Wood. I've got Gary Sinise for Forrest Gump. I think, sure, it's kind of on the nose, but I like what Gary Sinise does in that movie quite a bit. It works for me. It always has since I've been a kid. I've got Gary Oldman playing in Leon the Professional. He's just fucking unhinged in that movie. It's one of my favorite villain roles for sure. I've got Sam Jackson for Pulp Fiction. Same reason Adam and Britt does. I can't envision anyone else in the history of cinema playing that character. It's so specific to him, and it feels like Quentin wrote it for him. And then the fifth pick is Bob Gunton from The Shawshank Redemption, who plays the warden. I feel like nobody ever talks about this actor and this character from the film. Shawshank gets so much love, but nobody ever recognizes Bob Gunton, who plays the foil through the whole movie, and he's fantastic, and I root against him, and he's a great asshole. And so I had to give him some love there. Just like supporting actress, though, this was a two-person race for me between Sam Jackson and Gary Oldman. And at the end of the day, I just kind of flipped a coin. I was pretty sure some other people were going to get Sam Jackson in the nominations. So I went with Gary Oldman in Leon. He's bonkers. I mean, he's more over the top. He was in his era at that point. He'd done Fifth Element. He had done Air Force One. He was just like going all in on the villain roles. And Leon's the one I always think of the most because he's just taken it to another level. So Gary Oldman's my pick for Leon.
It's a good pick.
yeah.
Joey,
I like it.
It's a good pick.
let's see where you go with this one.
All right. I'm having trouble with. I've had a lot of trouble with this one. I have like 13 people on my list, so I'm making changes on the fly. No, but I'm locked in. But all right. Again,
You can make changes. There's no rules against that.
there's a lot of crossouts already. I have so many people. This is a good year. Okay. So no order again. First one, he was nominated in real life for Best Actor, but I went Morgan Freeman, Shawshank Redemption, Samuel L. Jackson, Pulp Fiction, Gary Sinise, Forrest Gump, Martin Landau, Ed Wood. And fifth, I went Tupac Shakur and Above the Rim. I'm going to keep nominating Above the Rim because it's great. But my winner, I went with Morgan Freeman for Shawshank Redemption.
I was pretty sure you were going to do that when we had talked off air about where he was going to end up, lead, supporting. Is there any justification you have for kind of splitting him off from being nominated in real life for lead?
Yeah, I just think looking at it, and he was nominated in some other thing, some of the smaller, awards for supporting. So I felt more justified doing it at that point. I just feel like Tim Robbins is the lead. Morgan Freeman's the supporting there. So that's why I went that way. And
Britt,
Samuel L.
Adam,
Jackson was right there with me.
Britt and Adam, did you both have Morgan Freeman in lead when it comes to contention when we get there, or did either of you think about putting Morgan Freeman in the supporting side?
I had him in lead, but I did consider that it was hard because he does all the narration in it. So I was like, can he be supporting if he's doing the narration? I don't know. It was very confusing. I have a lot of issues with like supporting and like lead actor. What really connotates that? So I have some other things later.
Air your grievances now if you'd like to.
I just think it's weird. It's weird. Let's have a reason why they're supporting. Let's they don't have their own scenes. They literally are just there to lift up another character. I don't know. It just got confusing to me. And then I was like, well, I'm just going to do what I want. So Big surprise.
That's the rule of the show. Do what you want. Yeah.
Yeah.
Adam, how about you? I assume you have Morgan Freeman in lead when we get down there.
I do.
Okay.
And yeah, I don't know. But I also would have considered Tim Robbins a lead as well, though. So.
Same.
So nobody takes issue with Joey going supporting. I certainly have no issue with categories.
Joey's a fucking asshole. I'm very upset about the whole thing. So I mean,
he lives to be an
totally
asshole,
fine.
though,
Totally
so.
fine.
Now, Joey, you said you got a whole bunch of names crossed off. I've said this category is just absolutely stacked. Anybody you want to shout out, honorable mentions that you want to give some love to?
I mean, Dennis Hopper was my 5.5. Tom Sizemore in Natural Born Killers, I think, was really good. Paul Schofield in Quiz Show was right there. Ben Stiller in Reality Bites. Like, it was a good year for this category. So, the fifth spot I was struggling with.
I would also like to say Pascal Gregory in Queen Margot, who's one of the brothers, is very good and was on my list because I love Queen Margot, apparently. I also had Tom Cruise from Interview with a Vampire. He's so good. Like, I love him as Lestat. It's perfect. So,
Okay.
Yeah. And it's appropriate too.
Adam, any honorable mentions that you want to give some last love to?
No.
Very, very weak category for you. Very weak.
No, I mean, you all have basically covered them. And I whittled my list down to between 6 and 8 for each category, and my long list is kind of gone now. So, but you all said all the ones I would have said, so there you go.
There's nice disparity between what we all did, so it's nice. We're covering everything.
There's a couple that I'm surprised nobody mentioned. John Turturro in Quiz Show. I think John Turturro.
He's on my list too. I mean, I have a longer list. I just picked 2 because I don't know, arbitrary.
I had Schofield first, so I just to not just repeat movies.
Britt, I love the Jeremy Irons call over in Lion King. But between him and James Earl Jones, I love them both. Like, voice acting doesn't get a lot of recognition when it comes to the Oscars, and it should.
It gets none, actually. It gets none. I looked it up in order to make this, to make sure I could put Jeremy Irons down, and they changed it after Aladdin because Robin Williams was not eligible, apparently, for to be nominated for the Genie, and people were upset about that. So they changed it. And I was
insane.
Like, yeah.
Wow.
And now they've never nominated a voice performance because the world sucks. So,
but like, we're happy
they'll
to
consider it. Maybe
I was gonna say we got stunt coming up. Like, why can't we do voice performance or like mocap or something?
I don't think we should separate them. I think that we should broaden our minds and understand that voice acting is a very different type of acting, and people who are voice actors deserve to be considered prestige actors as well, because it's really hard to do, and they should be nominated. And
Agreed.
God damn it,
I love it.
Jeremy Irons is so good in The Lion King. God damn it,
He's great.
The other one that quickly I have on the list is Jason Mewes in Clerks. Like, he basically couldn't play another character the rest of his life because he's Jay. Like that's who he is.
I watched that movie for the first time today.
Really?
Yep.
Oh,
I'd
wow.
never seen it. And I loved it. I thought it was wonderful. I mean, it was really problematic, but like, I got past that shit.
Well,
Which part?
All of it, basically.
which part wasn't?
None.
It is weird how many people get attached to the Clerks trilogy in like an emotional way. I had a lot of people reach out to me and say they would like be moved to tears by the end of Clerks 2 and Clerks 3. And I'm like, that's a fascinating thing, the concept of that movie resonating in that way. I don't know if it does for me necessarily, but any of you guys like have Clerks reverence in that way?
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, I've seen them all, but I cannot imagine being emotional after an hour and a half about a donkey show.
I'm not watching the rest of them, apparently. Clerks is it for me.
You just had to drop the donkey show, Joey.
It's fine. It can die with Clerks. I'm good. I liked it.
Yeah, I think that's all the shouts I've got there. So best supporting actor, it's going to come down to 4 different options. 4 different options. You've got Sam Jackson, who Adam and Britt had. You've got Gary Oldman from Leon the Professional, who I had. Joey's got Morgan Freeman in The Shawshank Redemption, and the Academy has Martin Landau in Ed Wood. I think that's going to be a highly contested battle when we get there. A lot of support for all 4 of those gentlemen, I think.
Definitely.
All right, let's get over to Best Actress. So from the articulate to the incoherent, from the free-spirited to the repressed, from the romantic past to the hard-edged present. I'm just quoting exactly what David Letterman said that year. Here were the nominees for 1994.
I was like, goodness, so eloquent.
When he said incoherent, I just had to include that for who we're about to talk to here shortly. So you've got Susan Sarandon in The Client. You've got Winona Ryder in Little Women. You've got Jodie Foster for Nell, which we will discuss. Miranda Richardson for Tom and Viv, and Jessica Lange won the coveted award for her role in Blue Sky. Britt, you're the lead actress in all our hearts and minds, so you start us off in this round.
Wow, I feel so special. Great. So I have none of the nominees in mind. I'm just going to put that out right now. So my choices are Faye Wong in Chungking Express, Irene Jacob in Three Colors, Red, Isabelle Adjani in Queen Margot, because Queen Margot forever.
Fuck yeah.
I have Kate Winslet for Heavenly Creatures. I put her in lead because of the story. And then I have Rena Owen for Once Were Warriors. And my winner is Irene Jacob for Three Colors, Red. I was blown away by that movie. I didn't want to watch it. I thought I was like, oh, this seems boring. And I loved it so much. I watched the entire trilogy and I'm like, well, that's now top of my list for favorite movies of all time. I'm obsessed with this movie. I'm obsessed with this performance. It's a very quiet film, right? But Valentine really resonated with me. I want to know everything about her. I want to know what she does next. I want to know why she's pushing herself so hard at ballet. I want to know why she's so sad. Oh, God, I just love her. I loved her in this movie. I was very moved by her performance, and I really just go watch it. Go watch it. It's a great movie.
So I assume of the Three Colors films, Red's your favorite?
Red is my favorite. I think white is the funniest. There's so many silly moments in it. And God, blue just depressed me. It was really beautiful, but my God, I don't need to watch that again. Red, I'd watch again tonight. Like I could put it on right now and be happy. God, I loved it.
It's hard for me to watch one of them without thinking of the other two, though, which made some of this category stuff, like especially when we get to Kieslowski, I had a hard time critiquing just Red because I kind of put them all together.
It's funny because I watched Red first. So I think because I watched the last of the trilogy first, I'm able to compartmentalize them and I don't just mash them together because I resonated so strongly with Irene Jacob in Red. Like she's all that exists for me. I don't need anything else. I just need her.
Now you're the first person to bring up Once Were Warriors on the episode. So it's a film that not a lot of people have probably seen or heard of. Why don't you give Rena Owen some love, the film some love?
Well, it's a really difficult film that is about Maori in New Zealand and domestic violence and amongst many, many different things. And I just thought that Rena Owen's performance in it was so layered and it's a really difficult watch. Please, if you want to dive into it, make sure you look at the trigger warnings, make sure you do your own research because I found myself very upset after watching it, but I was really moved by her performance and I thought she had such an incredible arc throughout it and I believed where she ended up at the end of the film. It was and there are a lot of really good performances in it, so I really highly recommend people who are interested in something that's going to be challenging to look up Once Were Warriors and maybe try it out if you're willing to cry a lot.
Adam, Joey, did either of you get around to that film? I don't think it's that easily accessible.
I did not.
Neither did I.
Okay. It was a first time watch for me for the pod, and it resonated quite a bit with me, so I'm glad that was another one that I got to kind of like Queen Margot, where it just wasn't even on my radar. Super happy I watched it. Big
Queen
fan
Margot
of that.
Forever.
So glad Britt's got a hell of a 5 there for sure.
I think it's like a fucked up vibe. Let's be real.
I dig it.
It's on brand for you, so it's perfect. Yeah. There's no way I'm going to do as well as that, but I'm going to make my attempt to go next. So here are my 5 nominations for best actress of 1994. I've got Alfre Woodard for Crooklyn. I've got Linda Fiorentino for The Last Seduction. I've got Natalie Portman for Leon the Professional. I've got recent 1981 revised Oscar winner Isabelle Adjani for Queen Margot. And I've got Irene Jacob for Three Colors Red. This was really painful for me. This was the one I flip-flopped on the most, and I actually had to go back and watch all 5 of these movies because I really couldn't figure out where I was going to land on it. Pre-prep, I thought Natalie Portman was going to be my win just because I think for what she does, again, as a child actor, she busts her ass. I have some problems with that movie, mainly related to the director and kind of his personal life bleeding into the film, and there's some icky stuff going on there. So I try not to hold that against Natalie, but at the end of the day, the movie that blew me away, and it's a quiet performance, it's Alfre Woodard in Crooklyn, who plays the mother. I think it's a really multifaceted mother character. It's much more grounded in real life. She's not like the nicest mom. But she's always like protective of her kids. It just feels very earnest and very honest. And I think that it's an underrated Spike Lee movie. And I wanted to give Alfre a shout out. So she's my pick for Crooklyn. Any issues with
pick.
that?
I
one?
like her.
Yeah.
I love that.
She was, she was in the running for me. But I think that's a good pick.
Yeah.
Okay. I felt like I was maybe going to go out on an edge a little bit with that pick. I don't anticipate it's going to get a whole lot of love. I don't think a lot of people have seen Crooklyn, but I would recommend checking it out if you haven't.
It's definitely an underrated Spike Lee. It kind of got lost in all that for some reason.
For sure. It feels like a direct companion piece to Do the Right Thing. It's very personal. Sure. I think his sister actually wrote the screenplay for it, and Spike had a hand in it. Yeah. So big fan of Alfre Woodard. I want to give her a shout out. I hope she gets a few people checking out that movie from this. Joey, we're going to go over to you now. Who do you have nominated and winning in lead actress?
All right. Before I say a few names, just Britt said them correctly. So I'm sorry if I say them wrong.
I don't know if that's true. I think I just have confidence that I haven't earned.
You made them sound better than I will if I say them incorrectly. So
just
I'm not
wait
trying
for best actor, and I'm going to really fuck it up.
I'll just edit in Britt's voice saying the name when.
My God, please!
That'd be amazing. All right, my 5 are in no order: Susan Sarandon, The Client; Irene Jacob, Three Colors Red; Faye Wong, Chungking Express; Winona Ryder, Reality Bites; Isabelle Adjani, Queen Margot. Blown away a month ago, I would not have believed you. But Isabelle Adjani for Queen Margot is the winner for me. I only watched this because Britt tweeted something about it, and I was like, oh, okay. If she's talking about it, I should probably watch it. And I loved it. I loved Isabelle Adjani in it, and yeah, it's a movie that, I don't know, Huguenots, I remember learning about them as kids, and that's always stuck with me for some reason. So this was, an easy in. And Isabelle Adjani is just fantastic.
Yeah, it's hard to argue. She's a winner on the show before from an episode that Joey was on. And I think that's not a movie that a lot of people gravitate towards. Again, Joey and I had never heard of it. And I think both of ourselves consider ourselves to be, pretty steeped in movies. But if you get around to Queen Margot, like that's her
Very
film.
worth it.
She's carrying the bulk of that movie for sure, and she's a terrific actress. So no issues there. Any honorable mentions you want to shout out, Joey?
I actually had Sandra Bullock in Speed, kind of floating around here. Jamie Lee Curtis in True Lies was one I wanted in. Those are the two big ones. Kathleen Turner in Serial Mom sadly wasn't making the. Sadly wasn't up there, but
And it's very on brand of you to get Susan Sarandon a nomination. You had her for Atlantic City in 1981. Yep. I don't love The Client that much. I mean, clearly you found her to be pretty good in that movie.
Yeah. I remember watching. I mean, I was 94, so I was 10. I remember watching this as a kid. I
Did you go see
I didn't understand it
in the theaters like you did the piano?
No, I didn't. I screwed up. I did not see the piano. I adjusted that. I adjusted that. But rewatching it, Susan Sarandon is just her performance stood out in that movie. The rest of it, maybe I didn't love as much, but Susan Sarandon was the standout for me.
That was very close to being on my Hallmark list, just to let you know, The Client. I thought she was great in it.
I wouldn't have argued if you put it on the list.
Yeah.
This is not a knock on Hallmark movies for anyone listening. I
No.
think we all accept that we have our soft
My
spot for
mom
Hallmark.
loves them.
I don't.
My mom has a sweatshirt.
I am not.
My mom has a sweatshirt that says I love Hallmark movies, so like I can't argue with her. She's my mom. But
That's right. It's a movement. People are into that stuff for sure.
Yeah, no, people love it.
Okay, well, for the first time, Adam, there's a little bit of pressure on you because there are 3 different winners at this point. If you do not say Jessica Lange is your winner, she will not even go to the online vote. So with that...
If he says Jessica Lange, the Holy Trinity is going to be fighting.
oh yeah, 100%. I'm going to be very confused.
Okay, so I'm not. Trust me, Jessica Lange is not in my nominees. Let's not do that.
Thank God the Holy Trinity is still together.
But I'm in a fun position right now. I really like this. So here are my nominees. I have Juliette Lewis from Natural Born Killers. I also have Susan Sarandon from The Client. I also have Natalie Portman from Leon the Professional. Joey, I had the balls, and I actually put Jamie Lee Curtis from True Lies on my nominee list. But my winner, and I am agreeing with one of you, and I am agreeing with Andrew, and I'm giving my win to Alfre Woodard from Crooklyn, a movie I only kind of liked, but a performance I really, really enjoyed.
That's amazing.
Well, to begin with, you have saved Jessica Lange by agreeing with me because
I know.
I think it should be a 3-person thing based off the rules
let's
anyway.
just throw her out. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jessica Lange.
The movie stinks.
I thought there was no way you were going to agree with the 3 of us, so I thought for sure. I tried my best not to see or hear what any of you 3 have coming into prep. I did mistakenly see on your Letterboxd, Adam, that you had Crooklyn rated a 2.5-star movie.
Yes.
And I was like, oh shit, we're going to be fighting because I'm going to give Alfre Woodard her props and her flowers. And I'm happy that's not going to happen.
No, I have nothing against a maybe what we'll call a sort of plot-less movie. We just covered Jean Dielman not too long ago, and
there's so much plot.
And I'm riveted by that movie. But I don't know. I couldn't fully connect to the story being told, but that takes nothing away from what Alfre Woodard does in that film. The right amount of heart, the right amount of mom. I just totally loved her performance in this movie.
I'm
right
so glad.
Mom. What a line.
Yeah,
that's great.
That's all I kept thinking was like, I feel like that resonates with a lot of moms because there's a complexity to motherhood, and like sometimes you got to be the hard ass and the bad guy, and you know, like she's encompassing all of that troubled nature. And then obviously for people who aren't familiar with the film, I'm not going to spoil it, but there's, you know, what happens with her character at the end is very heartbreaking, you know, with the situation. That's awesome, Adam. I did not think we were going to agree on that one. Even with you keeping
never
Jessica,
know.
You know. So let's talk Jessica Lange. She's going to be in the conversation when we get
I don't
to
think
social
she should
media.
be.
No, she shouldn't be.
No. Based off the rules we set, if nobody picked, just because there's still room for 4 does not mean we have to put 4. If all of us agreed with one person, and there would only be 2. So I think nobody picked her. She should be out.
I think Jessica Lange is a fine actress.
I love Jessica Lange.
She's good.
Not
This
Blue
movie
Sky.
was terrible. This movie was offensive. I was angry watching this movie. I wanted to throw something at the TV screen.
Bum me out.
Adam, you not into the Jessica Lange performance?
I watched the first time I watched this movie was about maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and I watched it on my phone. It was on some kind of a streaming service, and I watched it before bed, and I woke up angry. I was very upset about pretty much everything, about everything. And Melissa was confounded. And I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. This movie ruined my day.
Yes.
Be mad today. Yeah. No, it's a day ruiner.
It's tough
in the worst way.
If you want to watch a movie about a housewife that doesn't want to be a housewife, watch Jean Dielman or watch Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. Like, sorry, those 2 movies have performances that are far greater than this one. And this felt like such a caricature. It was uncomfortable to watch for me.
Yeah, but it wasn't good. And I like Jessica Lange, just not in this, not doing this, not in this movie. It's just,
I read
it didn't work.
reviews where people were like, she goes so far. And I was like, some might say too far.
Right away, like the movie, she's like out there from with like right when she's in the water, like right out of the gate. Yeah, and what's weirder is the movie was, I think, filmed in 1990 and sat on the shelves for 3 years because they couldn't figure out how to finance it or when to distribute it. And so it's like, it just it feels
like,
weirdly...
what do we do with this?
Just, sometimes it's okay to leave things on the shelf.
Yeah.
Right? Like, sometimes we'll have
let it gather dust.
On the last Emperor episode of Best Picture Cast, I said, maybe we don't have to let every kid who wants to be an actor be an actor. Maybe we could let some things stay on shelves.
You know what, Joey? I agree with that. Mm-hmm.
Well, let's take a slight detour. We're going to stay in this category, but let's talk Jodie Foster and Nell. It's a
Jesus Christ.
This is going to be a special segment.
I feel like simply based on Adam's reaction in real time when he was watching it, and then Joey, just recently you were listening to...
It scared me.
You were listening to a Rewatchables podcast. They were talking about an entirely different movie, and it comes up. This movie just sort of lives on somehow. So let's talk Nell. Let's talk Jodie Foster. Adam, why don't you start us off? Tell us about your Nell experience.
So, occasionally, what'll happen is I will have earned enough spousal credits where I can just say, like, "Hey, I'm gonna go downstairs and watch a movie." And it'll be like on a random, like a Saturday afternoon, and I'll be like, "I busted my ass this week." Or maybe I got up and mowed the lawn first thing, so I can just like I'm earning my time, and So you all know I have my movie shelf, but I have like a small, like a little dinky shelf. And on that one, I put the movies that I'm like gearing up to watch. So episodes we do for 1001 or Below Freezing. And then I had a 1994 section for this. And so I went through and I just kind of picked it random. I was like, I'll watch it now.
A treat to yourself.
Yeah, totally. And boy, I got to tell you, I inappropriately laughed way too many times. Watching this movie, and then I went upstairs, and Melissa is so sweet. It doesn't matter what the movie is. She'll go, "How was your movie?" And I went, "Sibbiday," and she was confused, and I was like, "Trust me, I don't want to talk about it." But yeah, not a good movie, not at all.
Joey, you have recency bias. You watched this movie literally last night from when we're recording this. How do you feel with it on your mind right now?
You guys scared me away from it, and I just can't believe you guys didn't like terrible accents, the exploitation of rape, misunderstanding Asperger's, just everything that you shouldn't do. They did it, and then they did it really poorly and made a lot of people I like really uninteresting and unlikable. So this was a nightmare, and I never heard about it till Adam went off. I saw its name on the list, but I never knew anything. I was just like, "Oh, Jodie Foster. Jodie Foster's great." And she's not always great, and that's sad, and that's such a bummer. And yeah, I was scared of this one, and Britt wanted me to like live tweet it, and
I did. I would have been like wrapped. I would have. It would have made my life.
I'll tell you, it wasn't even like funny Joey angry. It was just like really sad and confused about what I was doing, and I was like, maybe I watched too many movies. Maybe this crossed the line.
Did you make Kristen watch it with you?
No, God,
okay.
No. After your reaction, I was like, guys, remember, I just did Jean Dielman, and she watched that with me. I wasn't now going to be like, hey, you want to watch a piece of crap?
Okay, Britt, how about you? Where do you stand on Jodie Foster and Nell?
Well, I did a really great double feature with this one that I would not recommend because I watched Chungking Express, which is just a glorious, wonderful movie that made my life better. And Adam had made a comment about Nell in our chat on some social media site. And I was like, oh, I'll watch Nell. That's easy to find. I could watch Ashes of Time, another Wong Kar-wai film, but instead I'll watch Nell. And I was like, I hate my life. What am I doing? Why did I do this to myself? I think I got up halfway through and I was like, I'm just going to go read at the bar. Like, I'll just do that. It's 12:30 on a Saturday. Yeah, I'll go down to the brewery. That's fine. That's better than this film. I hated it. I was offended by it. And I was so confused why Jodie Foster would produce and star in this.
Okay, but I have a theory about this, right? Because I think this is, and hopefully you all know what I mean by this, right? I think this is 1994's this was a brave performance. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Oh, definitely.
It was
Absolutely.
brave.
Yeah.
So in that sense, she bought herself a nomination, I think.
She did. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
She should have bought herself a different nomination. Because damn, I never want to think about Nell again in my life.
When like the end happened, I was so like just nothing was earned in this.
It's weird though, because in a weird, I agree with all of everything that's been said. This was a movie I had not seen prior, and
Same. I didn't know it existed.
Never again.
Well, I turned it on one evening. The kids were in bed. My wife Alicia was in the other room, and so I was like, I just got a night to myself, and I was kind of like half-heartedly paying attention because I didn't anticipate it was going to get a lot of love.
It's 7 movies on at once on different volumes.
Yeah, I got 3 different TVs going, but I'll tell you what. Within like 5 minutes, this movie captured my attention. I'll say that. I couldn't. It was like a car crash. You can't look away. I was writing frantically notes down, and they were coming out like Nell was talking, and I was like, "This is either one of the most impressive things I've ever seen, or the worst." There's not a lot of middle ground there. I debated doing a Nell impression tonight, but I thought people who are listening might think I'm stroking out in the middle of this podcast, so I opted not to.
As the host, just real quick, go.
I don't think I can.
You can cut it. That's the great thing about podcasting. You can cut it.
Come on.
There's no chickpeas coming out of me tonight. So, in a weird way, I'm fascinated by the movie. I think I would watch it again just for the sheer strangeness of it all.
You're a masochist. That's what you are. Wanting to watch that film again. My God.
Will it surprise anybody to know that I own this movie?
No, Adam, not at all. When you said I plucked it off, I was like, oh no. I bet he's going to go and burn that in the backyard.
That's
He'll
like
throw footballs at it.
That's a collector's piece, though, for, that's one you hand out to somebody to recommend that you really don't like. I've had people give me movies and tell me to watch things, and after the fact, I'm like, you don't like me, do you? Because why would you give me this fucking movie to watch? Captain Phillips comes to mind, but
I love Captain Phillips.
Oh, how
like Captain Phillips?
dare you?
How dare you? I guess we are adding that into the pod next season, and you're gonna have to come on and defend your bad take.
I'm sorry.
It's such a good movie.
I'm not a Captain Phillips guy. I
Did you watch it while you were watching 3 other movies and listening to 2 podcasts
Yes.
and in a work meeting?
No, I think I've only seen it the one time when it came out. What was that? I don't know, 8-10 years ago, whatever it's been. Not a fan.
To be perfectly honest, I've only seen it once, so maybe it would have a different impact the next time. But I prefer the drama that's happening right now, so I'm gonna stick with being dramatically upset about this.
Okay, all right. Well, if anyone has any other Nell takes, speak now or forever hold your chickpeas.
No, that was an amazing segment.
Okay. So I'm going to. We're at a crossroads now with the picks. I'm going to leave it up to democratic voting in the 3 of you. Are we going to include Jessica Lange in the voting or not? Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
No, include her, because she's going to get her ass handed to her. Just include her.
We made rules.
Britt, I'm going to leave it to you.
Oh no! How dare you? Okay, can you all give me your choices? I want to know.
I say leave her
absolutely
in.
not.
Leave her in.
We made rules. Nobody picked her.
Well, if I say no, then we're at a crossroads completely because it's 2 versus 2.
You can take me out of it. I'll leave it to the
God
1001 group.
You know what? Fine. Put Jessica Lange in, if only to watch her fail.
Okay. It has been decreed.
But
Jessica Lange.
That feels mean. Maybe take her out because it's so bad. It's so bad. Take her out. Take her out. It's so bad.
Okay, Jessica Lange, you're out of here. Thanks for trying.
See ya.
So you're going to have 3 options when it comes to the social media poll. You can go with Britt.
Strong-armed it.
I just want to say, hold on though. To be now, I'm gonna filibuster.
All right, push
really
back.
Quick, because nobody picked Martin Landau for Ed Wood, but he's gonna be in the mix.
That's fair.
His performance was good.
Okay, but that's not what we're talking about.
No, this is arbitrary.
fine. I said my piece. I said my piece.
You know what, Adam,
It's on the
now that
record.
you say that, I agree. Jessica Lange can be in it. Whatever. Fine.
I acknowledge that it's arbitrary and take her out.
You know what? For the sake of the respect of the rules, I'm going to keep her in.
Yes, I agree with that.
In the event over the next couple of categories, we have 4 different options, and none of them are the winner. That person will go by. But Jessica Lange can stay in for this round and get smoked in the online poll. So you can go with Jessica Lange. There's no chance. Well, I don't know.
There is, though.
The options,
Film Twitter is weird.
You're right. You're going to have Jessica Lange in Blue Sky. You're going to have Alfre Woodard in Crooklyn, who is Adam's pick and my pick. You can go with Irene Jacob, Britt's pick from Three Colors Red. And Joey's pick is Isabelle Adjani for Queen Margot. Britt, you are correct. That might just go to Jessica Lange. You never know what's going to come out of those 4. I don't know. All right, let's get over.
It is a funny crew.
It is. Yeah. It's the strangest lineup I think we've had in 7 episodes for sure.
You're welcome.
Thanks to you all. Appreciate you. All right, Best Actor. Let's get into the nominees that year. You had Nigel Hawthorne in The Madness of King George. You had Paul Newman, everyone's favorite, in Nobody's Fool. You had John Travolta in Pulp Fiction. Morgan Freeman in The Shawshank Redemption, and winning his 2nd Oscar consecutively that year was Tom Hanks for his work as Forrest Gump. Now, before we all take our turns, friend of the show, future guest, question queen for the month, Heather Stewart over at Heather J. Stewart on Twitter asked, is Morgan Freeman really a co-lead? If he had gone in supporting actor, does he win? Because clearly the Academy didn't want to award Samuel L. Jackson. I'll let each of you address the Morgan Freeman category placement. Joe, you obviously know where you are when we get to your nominations. I'm going to begin this particular category. So my nominations for Best Actor are Johnny Depp in Ed Wood. I've got Tom Hanks in Forrest Gump. I've got John Travolta in Pulp Fiction. And then I have both Morgan Freeman and Tim Robbins in The Shawshank Redemption. Pretty chalky lineup there. Not a lot of stuff that I think people are going to have problems with. I wish I could divide this award into 5 equal pieces because I think all 5 of them deserve recognition. But for the first time tonight, I'm going to side with the Academy. And I think they got Tom Hanks right. I know that there's issues with Forrest Gump, and it's Oscar baity as all Oscar baity things. But it's my kind of Oscar bait, and I love it. And I think Hanks does a tough job juggling, making the character sympathetic and funny, but he doesn't come off in full-on mockery. And I think that, there's a couple of scenes in specific, the scene with his son and the scene at Jenny's grave. It turns me into just a giant puddle of tears, and it's because of Hanks and not necessarily what's on the script. So I have no problem saying the Academy got this one correct, and I've got Tom Hanks. Joey, Beautiful. We're going to go over to you now.
All right. My 5. Tony Leung Chiu-wai for Chungking Express. Hopefully, sorry, I just can't say that thing right. John Travolta, Pulp Fiction. Nick Nolte, Blue Chips. Tim Robbins, Shawshank Redemption. Tom Hanks, Forrest Gump. And for the winner, I'm actually, I've had my camera up on the underneath to really look fat, but because I'm wearing Forrest Gump University of Alabama jersey,
nice.
And I'm going with Tom Hanks for Forrest Gump for the win here. I love the performance. He's, he does a lot, and it really works for me. So I went with Tom Hanks. Tough category, this is a deep one, but Tom Hanks was my winner.
Nick Nolte comes up, I think, just about every episode at this point. You're the first one to bring him up this time. Blue
He's
Chips.
Great in Blue Chips.
He is good in Blue Chips. Yeah, this is the first time we've had Blue Chips referenced.
He
today.
is the patron saint of your podcast now.
It sure feels like it at this point. Yeah, he's come up every month at 1954, I think. All right, Adam, let's go over to you now. Who you got nominated? Who you got winning?
I'm okay. Great. All right, here we go. Here are my nominees. I have Johnny Depp from Ed Wood. I have Morgan Freeman from The Shawshank Redemption. I have Tom Hanks from Forrest Gump. I have John Travolta from Pulp Fiction. And winning in a movie I don't anticipate anybody having on their list at any point is William H. Macy in Oleana.
Oh my God. I love Oleana. It's not on my list, but
No.
Adam.
That's off the board.
Yeah,
theater
wow.
people right there.
Yeah.
As soon as you said it, I was like, God damn, why didn't I think of that?
I will just say that as a theater person, this is a David Mamet script. So there's a lot of talking, and it is a two-hander. It is just William H. Macy, and I feel so bad I don't remember the name of the actress who plays it. But this movie hit equally hard as somebody trying to do tenure track right now. Holy shit, this is an actor's acting performance. It is a lot of talking, and William H. Macy has worked with Mamet before, and he handles the dialogue well. It is a really great performance. And I'm not going to win this online poll. I am totally fine with it. Because William H. Macy knocks this fucking role out of the park. So I'm going with William H. Macy for Oleana.
Nobody's here going to hate on William H. Macy for sure. I can't imagine. I mean, he's the tops on everything.
Everybody loves William H. Macy.
But I'm not sure they've seen Oleana or
I'm
read it.
not sure they have either. Yeah.
Yep.
Definitely not.
I don't think I've heard of it, honestly. That one came. I watched 101 movies and I didn't get to it.
That's amazing. Yeah, I did not get to that one, unfortunately.
It's really good. He's
So,
really
Adam,
good.
I trust you guys.
Was there anyone close before William H. Macy maybe took the lead?
So I got to be honest. I was in Travolta, Freeman, Tom Hanks were all, it honestly kind of just fluctuating. And as I was, I was trying to make my list for this, and those three came up instantly, and I was going back through what I had watched. And I got to Oleana. I was like, oh, well, yeah, he's going to be nominated. And I was looking at who I picked, and I was like, no, really, it was William H. Macy who moved me the most out of this bunch. So, yeah.
Well, you have definitely forced me to make that a movie I get to probably this week at some point. So thank you for adding to my watch list. I appreciate that.
102.
No problem.
Okay, Britt, let's go over to you now. Are you going to stick with Joey, Myself in the Academy, and Tom Hanks? You going to go off the board like Adam? Where are you going to go on this one?
I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and that's just be chaotic. So I'm going to start out with a name I practice saying, and I probably can't say right now. So these are my five. Jean-Louis Trintignant from Three Colors Red. John Travolta from Pulp Fiction. Tony Leung from Chungking Express. Nigel Hawthorne from The Madness of King George. And Tom Hanks for Forrest Gump. And my winner is Nigel Hawthorne. I was blown away by The Madness of King George. I didn't expect to enjoy it. I didn't expect to like it. But there was something really beautiful about his performance. It was over the top, but there was still a very grounded, I felt like he was still a human. There were moments of levity, of course, and he did find comedy within the script. But you also could, I felt like I could see a man who's losing his wits and being unable to understand what's happening to him and not having anybody around him who supports him other than his wife. And it really affected me. And I really, really loved this film, and I didn't expect to. So I have to give it to Nigel Hawthorne.
The movie was better than I anticipated. It's not really in my wheelhouse of film, so I'm glad I enjoyed that movie more than I expected. I definitely agree. Hawthorne's pretty fantastic in that movie. Where do you stand on Tom Hanks? He was in your nominations. You have any issue with him?
I think he's great. I came into this expecting to hate Forrest Gump because I hated it when I was a kid. I remember watching it and thinking it was really weird and uncomfortable, and I didn't enjoy it. And then my husband and I were like, well, let's put on Forrest Gump. And I sobbed like a baby. He sobbed as well. We both were just a mess watching Forrest Gump. And
that's what blew
Tom
me
Hanks
away.
is so good.
You had literally not seen the movie since 94?
Yeah, no, I think I was like 7 or 6 when I watched the film, and it obviously went over my head because I was very small. And I thought his performance was fantastic. I thought he was really, really good, and I loved it. I thought he was great. I don't like their portrayal of Jenny. I think there's a lot of issues with that. Not on Robin Wright. She was amazing, but there's just a lot of directorial issues there, but that's okay. We'll talk about that a little later. Anyways, Nigel Hawthorne, go watch this film. It's great.
Absolutely. Well, let's quickly go around the horn, give a couple honorable mentions if you want to shout anybody out. I'll throw out a couple of names really quickly. Jean Reno in Leon the Professional, I think, does a really excellent job in there. Tony Leung, Joey, you shouted him out in Chungking Express with a nomination. I've got Ewan McGregor in Shallow Grave, a Danny Boyle film that I think is really underrated in the Danny Boyle catalog. And then kind of going right alongside Alfre Woodard, I got Delroy Lindo in Crooklyn. I think he does a really nice job as the father figure. Adam, anybody you want to give some love to really quickly?
I think all of you have really kind of said them. I will say I did not watch Chungking Express for Shameless Plug. We're doing a Wong Kar-wai ranking at the end of our season, so I'm just kind of saving that. I'm sure from the way you guys are talking about it, I'm sure I would have probably included some of these nominated. And I just have a real soft spot for John Cusack. So he was also on my short list for Bullets Over Broadway. But you all hit the biggies. So yeah.
Joey, how about you? Anybody?
Jean Reno was the big one. Harrison Ford, Clear and Present Danger.
I
Brendan
freaking
Fraser,
love
obviously.
Clear and Present Danger.
How-
It's so much fun.
How have we made it this far and there's no Airheads reference? I'm glad you finally got some Airheads in there.
Withholding. I have to think sometimes things aren't as funny as I think they are.
Britt, how about you? Anybody you want to give some last minute love to?
Lung Si-hung in Eat, Drink, Man, Woman, I thought was great, even though it was a very cheesy film. I thought he was really, really good. And I really like Jean Reno in Leon the Professional. This one was a little bit harder because I feel like the Academy did a really good job of picking pretty fantastic performances. So
there's no Nell in here.
Thank God. How dare you bring it up?
I thought we were past that. Okay, so you're going to have 3 options when we do get to the online poll for this category. You can go with the Academy, Joey, and myself, who all had Tom Hanks and Forrest Gump. You can go with Adam, who had William H. Macy and Oleana. Or you can go with Britt, who had Nigel Hawthorne in The Madness of King George. Good category there from everybody. All right, before we get into director and picture, we're going to take a moment and turn to a couple of honorary awards we hand out every episode. The Grace Kelly and John C. Reilly Awards, which are given to an actor and an actress who have done a collection of a body of work for a given year, though they don't necessarily have the single best performance. I watched 100 movies, so obviously I saw a lot of people show up a lot of goddamn times. Does anyone have anybody they want to throw out before I get to my 2? Anybody that you saw pop up a bunch?
Go for it.
Jim
No.
Carrey was the one.
Carrey felt like the obvious one, right? 94 was big for him. Britt, how about you?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no. Go for it, Adam. I'll go.
Adam.
I also had Tommy Lee Jones. Blue Sky is not great, but he's in Blue Sky, Natural Born Killers. He's in Blown Away and The Client, and maybe something else. I don't know, but he was in a shit ton that year. So
yeah, what about you, Britt?
I had Clancy Brown for Shawshank Redemption and a movie I'm sure nobody else watched called Pompoko. He was a voice actor in that for the English dub. It's a Ghibli film, and it's about magical raccoons, and I loved it. Big surprise. And Eric Stoltz from Pulp Fiction and from Little Women. 2 wildly different performances that work so well. Adam might not have gotten to his performance in Little Women because he turned it off.
I saw him in Little Women. He was there.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure he was trying to sell Winona Ryder some crazy drugs. So
absolutely,
right?
yeah.
That's what happened in the movie.
Yep,
right?
yep,
Yeah,
definitely,
okay,
yeah.
okay,
And then
awesome.
they definitely stabbed her right in the heart with a needle.
Perfection.
That would have made Little Women a hell of a lot better.
Yeah, it would have been really interesting.
Now we're fighting, Andrew. Stop.
I'm just prodding. I like Little Women.
Liar.
Kevin Bacon too, 94.
Who's that?
Kevin Bacon.
Kevin, yes.
The
Kevin
Air Up
Bacon.
There and The River Wild.
The Air Up There, yes.
I didn't watch either of those films, so
Yeah, Jim Carrey was the obvious one, but he already won a revised Oscar for the 98 episode for The Truman Show, so he felt like he was above the level where I wanted to go. I'll start on the Grace Kelly side. I only counted 5 women that had 2 or more prominent roles: Diane Wiest, Jodie Foster, Whoopi Goldberg. They're all Academy Award winners in real life. Kirsten Dunst was in a couple of films. She recently won a revised Oscar. So this left Winona Ryder, who was nominated but did not win for Little Women, and I think she was arguably better in Reality Bites. I prefer her performance in there.
I obviously agree.
Yeah. And I don't think we're ever going to see a Winona Ryder win in real life, quite honestly, at this point. I don't know.
Beetlejuice is coming out. I don't know what you're talking about.
She's kind of switched more into TV, like Stranger Things. She's on that thing and she's committed to that for however, it takes 10
There's
years
only
to do
one
a
more
season.
season, so we could get an incredible Winona Ryder role.
I hope so.
Soon.
I hope so. I feel like it's passed her by. I hope not, but I'm going to give Winona love. I think she's an excellent actress and has done a lot of good stuff. 94 was a big year for her. On the John C. Reilly side, there were a ton of guys who were in a lot of movies, but I had to rule out a bunch. Like I said, Brad Pitt, I had to rule out. He's got an Oscar. Brendan Fraser has an Oscar. Jim Carrey, Kevin Spacey. Don't want to talk about Kevin Spacey necessarily. Paul Newman's got an Oscar. Tommy Lee Jones. At the end of the day, though, I settled on somebody that has left an indelible print on my childhood. And with me being 9 years old in 1994, he was, I thought, the coolest and funniest guy, even if he was typically the dork or the comic relief. I'm talking about Rick fucking Moranis. Of course, he was in both The Flintstones and Little Giants in 1994. Say what you will about those films. They're not Oscar caliber. But you know what? Rick Moranis has an incredible story when it comes to his 80s and 90s run.
Does.
And then he left the business to take care of his kids and be a single dad when his wife passed away from cancer. This is the type of person that this award is for. So, Rick Moranis, you're my John C. Reilly honorary winner.
I love
Anyone want to give Rick Moranis some love?
Everybody loves Rick Moranis.
I mean, I personally am a big fan of the annexation of Puerto Rico. So,
it's a great play.
It's a great play. Great play.
Great play.
And for anyone who wants to hear more Flintstones talk, Adam, why don't you give yourself a shameless plug?
Yes, we covered the Flintstones on our current season of Below Freezing with a wonderful person. It was Liz Woodington came on to talk about the Flintstones, and we discussed all things nostalgia and the overabundance of prehistoric puns laced throughout that movie. So yes, yeah.
For sure, yeah. Rick Moranis, like I said, I just love him. Ghostbusters, Little Shop of Horrors, everything he does. He's a blast. Okay, let's jump to Best Director now. We'll get to the big stuff. The nominated directors in 94 were Woody Allen in Bullets Over Broadway, Quentin Tarantino for Pulp Fiction, Robert Redford for Quiz Show, Krzysztof Kieslowski for Three Colors Red, and winning the Oscar was Robert Zemeckis for Forrest Gump. We're going to be back around to Joey to start things off this time. Joey, who do you got winning the Best Director?
Best Director. Okay. So my hardest cut was Alice Poyas from The Crow. And then my 5 were Kevin Smith, Clerks, Krzysztof Kieslowski, Three Colors Red, Frank Darabont, Shawshank Redemption, Robert Zemeckis, Forrest Gump, Quentin Tarantino, Pulp Fiction, and my winner is Quentin Tarantino, Pulp Fiction.
Any doubt about it?
No, this was the first category I had the winner in.
Yeah, I figured that was.
Yeah.
I figured Quentin was going to be talked about quite a bit here. What about his directing in Pulp Fiction do you want to just kind of highlight?
Just the whole thing, how he put everything together, just the casting of Travolta after Travolta had been gone for so long. Just everything came together so well to make Pulp Fiction work. And it's him. So I think he deserves all the credit and definitely deserves the win here.
I like seeing Kevin Smith make the nominations too. I didn't necessarily know if he was going to show up for anybody, but I think that's a pretty monumental achievement, what he did on basically a shoestring budget, shooting at night and stuff like that. Yeah,
and what it turned into for him, it's great, and I love Clerks.
Any honorable mention you want to mention? Shout out? Aside from that, Airheads directing, Mighty Ducks directing, anything like that?
No. Those are the big ones. But this was pretty clean. A lot of great directors this year, but this was a pretty clean category for me.
Okay. Adam, I'm like 99.99% sure. I think I know where you're going to go on this one, but why don't we go over to you? Who do you have winning director?
Yes. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. Sure, yes.
Who directed Mighty Ducks 2?
Good question. Okay. I also have Krzysztof Kieslowski for Three Colors Red. I also have Frank Darabont for The Shawshank Redemption. I have Robert Redford for Quiz Show. I have Oliver Stone for Natural Born Killers. But of course, winning Best Director, I have Quentin Tarantino for Pulp Fiction.
Tell us, what about Tarantino and the direction do you love so much? What is it that makes this film for you?
I think I had a movement teacher in grad school who he didn't coin this phrase, but he was the first person I heard say this, and so I've glommed onto this for so long. And he said, "Hacks borrow, geniuses steal." And the way in which Tarantino both steals directly from genre and steals directly from the films he likes, but then also puts his Tarantino nature on top of it, there's just such a style to this movie that like nobody else could make it. I mean, it just is. I mean, I think the only watershed film that's been made since this is Parasite, but for the longest time, this was the last real not blockbuster, but like just real pivotal moment in filmmaking. And I think what he does, the way he takes like a 2 hour and 40-minute movie and makes it feel like it is flying by is totally impressive. And that also, for such a young director to put an ensemble together that he did, but also to get the creative behind the scenes people to work with him as well. It's just top to bottom, left to right. It was directed really well. And I just think it's pretty fucking amazing.
Now, the name that stands out to me on your nominations list is Oliver Stone. We haven't really talked about Natural Born Killers outside of Tom Sizemore. That's a controversial film. We've got some questions about it later. What do you think about Oliver Stone, Natural Born Killers?
So I rewatched this movie. It was months ago. It was actually, I think, before I really started the prep for 94. And while I'm not a big fan of the movie itself, the swings I'm a big swing guy. I love directors who just like jump into it. It's like, I'm just going to fucking try a bunch of this shit. And you got to admit, Oliver Stone threw a lot at the wall for this one. And if somebody told me they hated this movie, I'd be like, I'm not a big fan of it myself, but I really liked how he kind of crafted it.
I can picture you with big swing music. I don't know, like when I heard big swing, I just hear music in my head.
Oh, I just thought of Adam on a big swing.
It's fair. Yeah. Well,
watching Natural Born Killers.
Just swinging all day.
Yep. Really comfy,
the tire swing from Virginia Woolf.
Oh, 100%. Clinking a glass around, eating the ice. Maybe
This
the
is a big
glass.
one.
We don't know.
Well, that's the perfect transition over to you, Britt. Who do you have nominated and winning in the director category?
I'm going to be perfectly honest. This was a really difficult category for me because I had two directors that I just wanted to both win. Let's be real. I did make a choice, but I wanted them both to win. So my directors in alphabetical order are Krzysztof Kieslowski for Three Colors Red, Patrice Chereau for Queen Margot, Quentin Tarantino for Pulp Fiction, Tim Burton for Ed Wood, and Wong Kar-wai for Chungking Express. And I have to give it to Quentin Tarantino. Honestly, Quentin Tarantino created one of the greatest films I have ever seen in my life. Like I said earlier, I literally texted Adam while I was watching it, and I said, "This film is perfect. What do I do? It's so good." And I felt like he was the only person I could say that to, and know that, like, yeah, I would have texted both of you, but I would have given it away. And with Adam, I knew he was going to put this first, so yeah, it felt safe. And it's so
valid.
Stylish. It's disturbing. It's whimsical. I find myself transfixed whenever I watch it. But not only that, it is one of the most inspiring and innovative films I've ever seen. It takes the nonlinear structure and makes it work. And we've talked a lot about nonlinear films, and this is probably the best one out there.
Now, you had mentioned that you were sort of between two. What's the other one?
Krzysztof, 100%.
Okay.
Three
Nice.
Colors
Awesome.
Red
Awesome.
is probably in my top 10 favorite films now.
Wow.
It was very, very, very close. I almost gave it to him when everybody was giving Quentin Tarantino the Oscar. I was like, well, I might as well change it up, but I thought be true to my sheet. Let's do it. But I was so affected by Red. It is such a beautiful film, and if I could give co-Oscars, it would be both of them.
The tie.
Unfortunately, you can't.
I know. So he'll just get the honorary Britt loves this award.
It's good enough.
It's an important award.
It is. All right, well, let's go over to me now and see if I'm with the three of you or not. So my nominations for Best Director in 94 were Wong Kar-wai for Chungking Express. I've got Spike Lee for Crooklyn. I've got Robert Zemeckis for Forrest Gump. Maybe controversial, I don't know, but I've got him in there. I've got Quentin Tarantino for Pulp Fiction, and I've got Frank Darabont for The Shawshank Redemption. I will apologize to Krzysztof Kieslowski. He was my number 6. Just missed my spot. If I could have included like his collection of Three Colors films as one entity, he'd definitely be in there. But it was hard for me to kind of just put Red in there on its own. At the end of the day, though, I respect Shawshank a hell of a lot. It's Darabont's directorial debut, but he's working off an immaculate story already versus Quentin, who's conceptualizing and creating everything on his own. There's no one else who... Adam said it perfectly. There's no point rehashing everything you said, but there's nobody else who could have done what Quentin did. What stands out to me about this year is, you know, the Oscars has a tendency to make you quote unquote pay your dues, and they'll give you the original screenplay award, which is, I think, Adam, I'm very much on your side. The original screenplay is kind of my go-to Oscar, where I'm like, that's the best fucking movie most of the time, you know, like, and they just gave it to Quentin because they weren't gonna give him the director, and he knew it. And he even said it on the stage when he got up and accepted the original screenplay in '94. He's like, "This is the last award I'm gonna get now because I know you're not gonna give me anything else." And he went on Howard Stern years ago and he told Howard that Spielberg took him out hunting before the awards campaign and basically told him, "You're not winning the Oscar," and that's just bullshit. And that's the whole point of the Almanac, is to say the Oscars are outdated and they have this history of campaigning and there's all this politicking and schmoozing, and that's not what we're here to do. We're to give the best thing the win. Quentin Tarantino's the best director of '94. There's no question about it. I'm not surprised. I actually predicted all three of you would have this as the winner. You're a fool if you don't have Quentin Tarantino as your winner, I think.
This is the easiest decision we've all had to make tonight.
It wasn't very easy for me, let's be real, because Krzysztof Kieslowski was really
fair.
good too. But Quentin,
Yeah, no, there's a lot of. That's the thing. It's a lot of strong directors, but I think there's a clear visionary in it who just went nuts.
Yeah, I mean, Tim Burton, Joey. I'm glad you had, or Britt had him on the nomination list.
Him, yeah.
I'm glad Tim Burton showed up there.
Ed Wood.
Absolutely.
It made me
Ed
so
Wood's
happy.
Oh, it's
Ed Wood's
wonderful.
great.
It's maybe his best movie. You know, it's certainly.
Yeah,
Adam,
absolutely.
not so much.
You know, Adam, that's fine. We don't need your opinion.
Sounds good.
No, do tell
kidding,
us. What do you think of Ed Wood?
So this, I liked it more actually after having watched Plan 9 from Outer Space and listening to the Worst Picture Cast episode on it. But ultimately, I just didn't connect with it. I didn't the first time I watched it. And I will say the first time I watched it, I was like 15 and I was like, how dare Martin Landau take Sam Jackson's Oscar? You know, but I watched it again. I gave it its due, and it is not a bad movie. But it is by no means my favorite Burton, and but I recognized Depp and Landau in my nominations. It's not that the performances are bad. I'm not really clicking with the movie.
So,
no,
I think I'm the only one who had Zemeckis in my nominations. Is that correct?
I nominated him.
You have nominated? Okay.
No.
What do you think of Zemeckis? I thought he did admirably with Forrest Gump. I mean, it's gimmicky in spots and trickery with the technology and everything, and it's heavy-handed, and I think he does a fine job. I don't have a problem with him in a nomination.
Yeah. No, I mean, I thought he filmed this like over 40 years. When I didn't understand how that all worked when I was a kid, I was like, "This is crazy."
Right.
I think he did a good job.
I don't have anything against Zemeckis. I love Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I love Back to the Future. So it's not a Zemeckis thing. When I was looking at like my nominees, I had room for what I call one kind of spectacle dramatic like choice, and I gave it to Shawshank. That's, I think, the sweeping nature, and also the confinement of the prison was, I think, a more daunting feat personally. So, and I also, I mean, Zemeckis would have been like 7 or 8, I guess, on my list. So I don't hate it, but it was kind of an easy one to axe out for me.
Yeah, but overall, I mean, especially his past stuff, I love Zemeckis, and so, but I was comfortable nominating him here.
I probably softened my Zemeckis love because of Back to the Future alone.
I mean, I love, but yeah, Back to the Future, that's all timer.
Yeah.
I like Zemeckis is great. I think Forrest Gump is a great film. Honestly, what kept it out for me is Jenny. I was really offended by Jenny, and I think that's not a controversial thing, especially because she is the only, like, she and the mom are the only 2 females, and they're both pretty one note for me. And so I couldn't give it to him because Jenny could have been a really multifaceted character, and they chose not to do that. They chose to make her very one-dimensional, and I guess there's arguments that it's, Jenny's from Forrest Gump's point of view, but I don't believe in that. And I just think it was, for me, that's why it kept him out. Some directors that I was super sad that I couldn't put in was Roger Allers and Rob Minkoff for The Lion King, because I'm really championing that film this time. And Tsai Ming Liang for Vive l'Amour. I adored Vive l'Amour. It is like the slowest of slow cinema, so if you're not into it, don't watch it. But I was transfixed by that film. It was amazing. I also had Yang Kwei Mei in Vive l'Amour as a potential, like, she was my 6th for Best Actress. I adored that film, and I just thought he did an incredible job with it, and it's a really great portrayal of the want of human connection. So I preferred that one to Zemeckis, but that's okay.
One other director, you kind of gave some honorable mentions there. Another director, you guys have already given Speed a lot of love. I haven't given Speed any love. I thought Jan de Bont did a really exceptional. Speed was like a cultural phenomenon at that time that I think people who didn't live through '94 don't remember how big Speed was. But he did excellent as a director for that action movie. So I tried to get him in, but he wasn't cracking the top 5 for sure.
Very similar to that. I had my boy Jim Cameron for True Lies on my short list.
Can't be mad at that.
Joey, any honorable mentions you want to get in real quick?
Yeah, you guys have mentioned everybody. There's a lot of strong directors this year. You guys went through it.
All right. Well, when we get to social media, you're just going to have 2 options. You can go with the Academy, who had Robert Zemeckis, or you can go with Adam, Britt, Joey, and myself, who all have Quentin Tarantino and Pulp Fiction. So get behind the 4 of us and help get Quentin that revised Oscar, please and thank you. All right, let's get
He might be the only one listening to this of all these people.
He is psychotic enough to, yes. All right, let's get over to Best Picture, the big one. The nominees in 1994 for Best Picture were 4 Weddings and a Funeral, Pulp Fiction, Quiz Show, The Shawshank Redemption, and winning, of course, was Forrest Gump. Because this was a year with only 5 nominations allowed at the actual ceremony, we will adhere to those rules and only nominate 5 films as well. Heather Stewart also asked a Best Picture question that I'll put out there for us to answer depending on what we select as our winner. She wonders, does Forrest Gump suffer because of what it beat rather than because it's a bad winner? Adam, I feel fairly confident I know who you're giving your win to. So let's start with you and find out who's your Best Picture.
Thank you so much. I will say I am glad. I love that I get to go first here because I get to mention a movie that we haven't mentioned at all yet. So I'm very, very excited about that. And I have ranked these in terms of my preference and how I thought they should win. Just on the outside looking in at 6 would have been 3 Colors Red. At number 5, because it was such a cultural phenomenon, Speed deserves to be nominated for Best Picture. At number 4, a movie that has always transfixed me, and I think the period detail is great, and I'm going with Quiz Show. Number 3, because how can you deny the way that this movie just moves you? Get Busy Living or Get Busy Dying, The Shawshank Redemption. Number 2, and a movie that I truly, truly love, And if it wasn't for the movie that I'm wearing on my chest, would probably stand a real chance at winning this. And that is the pivotal 1994 film Hoop Dreams.
Oh, okay.
And my number one, of course, winning is Pulp Fiction.
Thank you so much for shouting out Hoop Dreams. I kind of excluded it because of it's a documentary, and I know that those things can be compartmentalized, but Hoop Dreams is in the conversation for best documentary films ever made.
Definitely.
Adam, thank you for giving that movie some shout here.
Damn.
Now,
Hoop Dreams is a freaking masterpiece.
Oh.
That's such a goddamn
perfect. Now, Adam, for listeners who may not be familiar, I believe Pulp Fiction is your favorite film of all time, correct?
It sure is.
Okay, so I'm gonna open some space up for you here. Drive into the lane, go to the paint, shoot your shot. Why is Pulp Fiction the best film of all time?
I tell this to my students that I would never question what anybody's favorite film of all time is if it's the reason why it got you into liking film, right? So if somebody came to me, and I think actually a good example, because this comes up a lot when I ask students now what some of their favorite films are. And I will get a lot of people saying the original Mean Girls. And I go, why is Mean Girls your favorite movie? And they go, it's what got me into liking movies. And I'm like, I would never argue that. I would never, if it was just, because it's Lindsay Lohan and it's funny, I'd be like, okay, that's a shit answer. But if it's the thing that got you into, it's my favorite movie because it's what brought me into the world of cinema, would never question that. And for me, that's Pulp Fiction. The filmmaking style, the performances, the way in which you think it's more violent than it really is, the dark humor, just everything about it for me clicks. And yeah, I've seen this movie, dozens of times at this point, and there isn't a single time that I watch it where I'm not utterly compelled by the whole thing. And I know Britt and Joey know this, but I got to screen this on our big screen in the art center where I teach for my film class this year. And I texted a bunch of people, I was like, this is my job. I get to show
It's amazing.
This movie to students. And I was just in heaven. So, it's what got me into loving film. So that's Pulp Fiction. That's my pick.
It's beautiful. I love it.
Well said.
All right, Britt, you're our little wild card.
God.
Most of the time. Let's see where you go with this one. What do you got for Best Picture?
So my choices are Chungking Express, Pulp Fiction, The Lion King, The Shawshank Redemption, and Three Colors Red. My choice is very obviously the most perfect film that has ever existed, and that is Pulp Fiction. I can't hide that. I knew as soon as I rewatched it so I came into this thinking I'm probably going to give it to The Shawshank Redemption. Everybody freaking loves The Shawshank Redemption. Everybody talks about how it's the best movie that's ever made. If you look at the really, really beautiful list, the IMDb top 250, it's at the top, right? So it was
we know you all love the IMDb
we
list,
love
right?
it. Yeah.
Numero uno.
Yeah. Is it number one? I have no idea. I don't look at that list.
Yep.
Oh, great. Oh, so it's number one. So I assumed, it's going to be it. And then I watched Chungking Express and I was like, this is magic and I love it. But God damn it, Pulp Fiction. I rewatched it and I was like, it's going to be in the top, but it's not going to be my favorite because I have gone on record saying Quentin Tarantino is not my favorite director ever. He, if you go back to the David Lynch episode of 1001 by 1, I do state that. But my God, Pulp Fiction blew me away and I was laughing. I didn't cry, which is probably a good thing. There's no reason to cry during that film.
Yeah, that's appropriate.
I was laughing. I was on edge. And I've seen this movie 4 times at least, if not more than that. And it blew me away. It blew me away. I had to tell Adam he was right. Pulp Fiction should win over everything. And that is my pick.
I love it. I'm going to go up next. We'll save Joey for the very end. He'll get to close us out on Best Picture. So here are my nominees for Best Picture in 1994. My first nomination is going to go to Crooklyn, Spike Lee's film. This was one that I went back and rewatched a couple of times for 94. I didn't love it the first time I saw it 10, 15 years ago, whenever it was. It just affected me more as a somebody who's been with my wife for 20 years now, and we've got a couple of kids, and it just hit me in a different place now in life than it ever has. So I want to give Spike Lee a lot of recognition for Crooklyn, which I think is a very intimate, personal portrayal that also has a lot of universal aspects. Forrest Gump is one of my nominations. The Lion King is one of my nominations. Pulp Fiction, and then finally The Shawshank Redemption. So with all due respect to Crooklyn, which is Spike Lee's underrated gem, Forrest Gump, which is wonderful, The Lion King, a perfect animated movie, and Shawshank, which has reigned over IMDb's top 250 forever, Pulp Fiction was, is, and will forever be the defining film of 1994. I think it literally changed the language of film and the way narrative and structure played out. The dialogue is distinct. The casting is meticulously crafted. Acting is a perfect harmony of ensemble talent. The legacy of the film built a directorial empire that has not diminished in 30 years. This is a year of masterpiece films. I count at least 4 masterpieces made this year, and Pulp Fiction is the best of them all. It has to be the winner for 1994. No question about it. Pulp Fiction.
That was so eloquent. Like, I was just like, yeah, it's a good movie. And you had a very thoughtful thing to say.
In fact, that's the part of Pulp Fiction that made me cry, was your speech on it.
You're welcome, Adam.
I am the unsung hero once again. Joey, it is time for you to close out Best Picture. What do you got for us?
There's a lot of pressure on this one. Stupid rules I make really have consequences. All right. Wait, no, all right. All right, so my nominations are Lion King, because of course Lion King deserves to be here. Yeah. Chungking Express, Pulp Fiction, Forrest Gump, Shawshank Redemption. And we decided, since there's room, Forrest Gump will be in the pool, right?
Correct. Forrest Gump will be playing at the dance.
All right, so Shawshank Redemption is my winner for Best Picture. I think it's fantastic. I think it's perfect. I've watched it many times. I'm on the record that it's one of my favorite movies. I just can't say enough good things about it. This was a tough choice. Pulp Fiction's right in the running, but yeah, I went Shawshank Redemption.
Now, before, I think there's a looming question that we're all thinking. How much influence did the Best Picture cast host play in this pick? We all know his love of Shawshank Redemption. Do you have a little puppet over you controlling your decision-making?
No. Christ.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure this was on your own accord.
Have you met me yet?
Good. So, was Pulp Fiction even close to pipping Shawshank for you, or was that definitely your favorite?
No, I Forrest Gump was closer.
Really?
Yeah, I love Forrest Gump.
Oh, how dare you!
Agreed. I guess, are we chucking Joey out of the Holy Trinity now? I don't know.
No, because
So you rate Forrest Gump higher than Pulp Fiction?
In picking what I would have for the Best Picture winner, yes.
Not necessarily objectively the better film.
I don't know. No, Pulp Fiction's right there. Pulp Fiction's right there. But
no, you've got to, Joey, own it.
It's tough.
You've got the jersey literally behind you. You might as well own it, right?
Yeah. So no, Gump was my second, and this was pretty locked in as well. But I would have changed the Forrest Gump if it wasn't in there, so it would have been in the pool. If we made that rule earlier, and as I was arguing that rule, I was thinking like, oh, this might come back to be a pain in the ass for you later. But at some point, I dig into things, and you got to stay.
The rule didn't affect. The rule didn't affect things as much as I was anticipating, which is a good sign.
Such a bummer.
Well, it's going to come back again. Britt gets to play this game again in a few months because she's on another episode with 2 additional guests. So we'll see if Britt can influence the rules there.
Let's see how many foreign films I find to put in there.
Plenty, I'm sure. Okay, so really quickly on Forrest Gump, we got a lot of feedback online. That movie divides opinion. Some people absolutely hate Forrest Gump. I'm just going to personally get on my soapbox for a second. I'm not here to accept any Forrest Gump slander. I think it's an incredible movie. It has flaws, obviously. I accept those flaws. But damn it, I love it. I'm always going to love it. I remember watching it as a 9-year-old. Probably not a movie you should be watching as a 9-year-old necessarily.
I watched it at 10 years old, don't worry. And that was my first soundtrack I ever owned. I went to Tower Records and bought that.
That's funny. My
It was a
first
2-disc.
My first soundtrack was also 94, but it was The Lion King. But yeah, I mean, Forrest Gump, I love it. Adam, do you have any negativity around Forrest Gump?
I mean, outside of the fact that I obviously just prefer Pulp Fiction, I rewatched it obviously for the pod, and I will say that the moments that really, I guess, kept me the most engaged were the Forrest Bubba stuff, but also the scene that you mentioned. I mean, Tom Hanks won that Oscar for the way that he tries to ask Jenny if his son is like him.
Oh my God.
And so I obviously have nothing against the Tom Hanks's performance, but like I definitely this time around, and I've seen this, I don't know, 5-6 times, when he's just running, I find it to be overly schmaltzy, and I don't think we need all of the have a nice day and shit happens. Like it's like a hat on a hat. It's just a little too much. The movie is good, but there's so much extra, right? We need the John Lennon stuff, right? There's just, and that's a small thing, but the movie is already a bunch of small things. I just think there's too many. And also just as a side thing, if you haven't read the book, you've got to read the book.
The book
you
is
have
wild.
got to read
The book is nuts.
So no slander, but
It's flawed, obviously.
It's one of those movies where it's divisive, and like as you're saying all these things, I'm like, yeah, no, you're right, but that just really works for me. Like it's such an uninteresting, because it's like it just works for me. I get it. I can't even argue with you, but I'm like, yeah, all right, no, but no, that doesn't bother me. That works for me. It's not just the interest, it's not a very compelling back and forth, but it just is what it is. It's something I've always loved.
I mean, I poke fun at Oscar bait movies all the time, but I can't. I have to be honest and say, like, this is a contradiction. This is an Oscar bait movie if there ever was one. It just happens to be my Oscar bait movie, and I'm unabashedly in support of it.
That's fair.
Britt, you seemed quite moved by the Forrest Gump Jenny son scene.
I don't want to talk about it. No, I will talk about it. It killed me. It absolutely 100% killed me. That was the moment where I went, he'll be in my nominations. Truly, that scene right there. And not like again, I've talked about this multiple times. I don't have children. I'm not planning on having any children, but him. And we don't really know if that's actually his kid, right? Like, we think it probably is, but Jenny could be lying to him from the way that she is being portrayed in this film. But his reaction to it is one of the most poignant, beautiful things I've seen on screen. And I was basically a mess the rest of the film after that. And I thought his performance was amazing. And I mean, I'm fine with it winning. Like, people still really like it, and people love to hate things that other people like. So whatever, that's fine. But
yeah, I feel like Forrest Gump is kind of a victim of a brutal year. If it comes out in maybe if it comes out the next year with Braveheart, it gets less shit if it beats Braveheart. Who knows if it does, but it's just a victim of.
I agree.
Came at the wrong time. So you're going to have 3 options when we get to social media. They're the 3 options that I think most people would expect, and this is a heavyweight battle. Honestly, this is going to be contentious, divisive. We're going to have some hate mail for sure, but you're going to be able to go with Adam, Britt, and myself, who all have Pulp Fiction. You can go with Joey, who has The Shawshank Redemption, or you can go with the Academy, who has Forrest Gump. And we are now going to get into our, 10 pages of lingering questions we have. We have so many lingering questions. You guys buckle up. All right. First one up. We got this question from Joey's compadre over at the Best Picture Cast. RDB, leave it to him to no-show an episode and bring me the first question. Classic Artie. Love it. No. I say that with love, Artie. It's all good. Artie asked, is True Lies a top 3 action movie all time? Because I think so. Now, Adam, you seem to be maybe the most into True Lies of the 3 of us. You mentioned James Cameron a little earlier. Do you have True Lies as high as a top 3 action movie?
Top 3 all time, no. Top 3 94, yes. Top 3 of the 90s, probably not, but that's a fun conversation. I do think that True Lies doesn't, unlike something like T2, it doesn't take itself too seriously, which also I like in a really joking way. I really wanted to throw Tom Arnold into my Best Supporting Actor nomination because his delivery of lines in that movie is just fucking amazing. But no, True Lies is great. True Lies is fucking wonderful.
Well, I'm going to put you on the spot really quickly. If you had to like just pull 3 action movies all time, what are the top 3 action movies for you?
Oh fuck, all time.
First to come to your mind.
Die Hard, Heat, and probably T2.
Another shameless plug for the 1001 show. Michael Mann ranking coming soon. Be sure to listen over there.
No, in the past at this point, right?
Will it be in the past?
Yeah, I think so.
Go over there
just
anyway,
last Friday.
Time is a flat circle, so
Yes.
I don't know.
Time doesn't exist, just like money, so it's fine.
Whenever it dropped, head over to 1001 by 1, the Michael Mann ranking. I'm very excited to listen to that one. It's going to be contentious, I'm sure. Britt, let's go over to you. True Lies, top 3 action movie? If not, what are your top 3? Do you have some favorites?
I really like True Lies, but it's not my top 3 action films. I would say my top 3 action films are probably Hard Boiled and Mad Max Fury Road, and oh god, I guess I have to say Aliens. If only because I was so goddamn salty towards Adam on our episode of Aliens. I was so mean. I feel so bad about it, but he pissed me off, so.
That's the MO for the show. One of you has to come to the table disgruntled. It makes for the best listen, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, Joey, you've probably talked about this behind the scenes already. You guys talk all the time. Maybe not.
Not about this.
True Lies.
Not about action films.
Artie's the most confusing person I've ever texted with in my entire life. You literally never know what you're going to get from him. He's the box of chocolates. Okay. True Lies, Joey. Top 3 action movie? If not, what are your top 3?
I love True Lies, but no, top 3, no. My top 3, T2, Point Break, Die Hard.
Good list. I appreciate RDB for allowing me to make a shameless plug for my own show, which you're listening to. I just did a 3-part series on my top 50 favorite action movies for Furiosa. My top 3 are Jurassic Park, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Mad Max Fury Road, number 1 with a bullet. Jurassic Park, you can quibble over if it's an action movie. It is to me. Okay, second question.
You could quibble over whether or not Raiders of the Lost Ark is a good movie. I could be.
This is not the forum for that, sir.
Back.
Okay.
Oh,
right,
it is.
right.
What
That's
are you talking
revised
about?
Best Picture winning Raiders of the Lost Ark. Thank you very much. Okay.
Whatever.
We can agree to disagree. We're still friends. No harm there. Let's go to our second question. We got a ton from Heather again. Question Queen. It's only fair because I'm an idiot and I completely forgot her question on the Chariots of Fire episode, so she just fired a bunch at me. So both she and friend of the show, Chauncey Talise, over at Big Chaunce 64 on Twitter, asked, "This is a year that could easily have had 10 deserving Best Picture nominations.
Oh, God.
What other 5 films do you think the Academy would have nominated if 10 had been allowed in 94? I'll start off because I had some time to prep this. You all are just kind of being put on the spot on this. This is a tricky question because I'm sort of having to put my mind into where the Academy was at in 94. So I'm going to assume, based on the context of what they nominated, they would have gone Bullets Over Broadway,
Yep.
Little Women, Madness of King George, 3 Colors Red, and Tom and Viv. Jesus Christ. If in hindsight, it's probably a good thing it wasn't a 10 nomination year if they had the access to pick the 10, because if Forrest Gump and Pulp Fiction are watered down by like Bullets Over Broadway and Tom and Viv and stuff like that, we're not talking about 94 as being this like meaty year necessarily. So that's where I went. You guys feel free to jump in whenever you want to.
Can you? It was so you said 3 colors, Bullets, Tom and Viv, Little Women, and what else?
And I went Madness of King George.
I would take out Tom and Viv and place in Ed Wood.
That makes sense.
I agree with that. Though they might have snuck Nell in there just to be rude.
Jesus Christ.
No, I agree with the Ed Wood. Lion King should be in there somewhere.
Actually, Lion King really should be there. We have not talked about that movie basically at all other than to pepper it through. And that was a masterpiece of an animated film.
Do you want to take a couple of minutes and just talk Lion King? Go for it.
I mean, not really, other than goddamn, The Lion King's amazing. And I did not like it before because everybody liked it and I have to be a brat. And then I watched it over Christmas and maybe had a couple whiskeys while I watched it and thought it was the greatest thing I'd ever seen. So when I rewatched it for this podcast, I was right. It is the greatest movie ever.
It's so good.
It's wonderful. It's poignant. It's not long, which is another a great thing about it. And it's so influential. It was Disney's first movie that kind of wasn't based on an originating story, but actually was, because there was an animated film that it was based on. But that's fine. We can talk about that another time. And it's so influential. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Hear.
And it deserves to be included.
Yeah, for sure. We also had a couple of people bitch and moan about Lion King online, which that did not seem like a divisive movie to me. So I'm surprised we had some people that were on that side of the fence there. But hey, teach their own.
That used to be me, and I have come to the light. So
it's that's incorrect.
Everything inside the light is ours.
Yep, exactly. And the Lion King is there.
Cole wasn't super into it the first time we watched
Really?
it. I was like, no. I was like, yeah, no, that's wrong. We're gonna do this again.
He was like,
gotta
"Where are
set
the
him on the right
mechas?
course
This
early."
isn't Transformers."
I was like, I don't care. He's well, that was pretty much the problem.
Yeah.
But he's rewatched it since and he liked it.
The problem now is on like Disney Plus, the kids find the new Lion King, the like live action thing. It's like
he will not be watching
Yeah.
those shenanigans. He will be watching True Lies and the Client well before that comes out.
Yes.
My parents would do the same thing. They were always like, "Yeah, you can watch it. It's The Exorcist and you're 6, but whatever. It's fine."
Yeah. It's fine. You'll grow up normal and not anxious.
Well, that's the perfect segue into our next question, oddly enough. So we got a question.
About The Exorcist?
So our friend Adam Freed at Movie Archer on Instagram, who's going to be joining the show next year, wrote, 1994 defined me as a movie lover. What film, though not necessarily the best, do you love the most from 94? Adam's pick was Interview with the Vampire. He just said that was the bee's knees for him back then. Do each of you have a pick for the thing that you love the most from 94 that maybe isn't necessarily the best? Feel free to jump in when something comes to you. I'll give mine really quickly. It's Little Big League. I know how dumb that movie is, but I was, again, 9 years old, and I was like, wait a minute, this kid runs a baseball team, and Ken Griffey Jr., who's my favorite baseball player, is in the movie? Of course Little Big League's my favorite movie.
Yeah, I mean, I was 10, so watched D2 a million times, literally. The Crow. I watched The Crow a lot when I was a kid. I really, I still love it, but I really loved it. And we nominated Speed a lot, but Speed is like I have like memories of watching that at sleepovers with my friends over and over.
Joey, I'm shocked you didn't go Camp Nowhere.
Oh God, I love Camp. That was the first movie I watched when I got Disney Plus. Because it's great. Andrew Keegan started a cult or something, but my God, he is great in that movie.
Britt, what about you? What's your 94 movie of choice?
I mean, it would probably be Speed, to be perfectly honest. I remember watching that a ton when I was a kid, and I still watch it all the time. We put it on far too often because it's just pleasant and lovely, and Dennis Hopper forever. But the other one is Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
Yeah.
So good. So innovative. Man, Wes Craven was so ahead of the time in basically everything that he did. We lost him way too soon. And I rewatched New Nightmare and I was like, there's no way this is going to be nominated for anything. But it is one of my favorite films. I love it so much. It's so good. It's so cool.
I tried squeezing it in a couple of places because it's a very fun meta movie. Like, it's way ahead of its time.
It's just freaking good. It is good.
It's great. Yeah. No, I agree.
Adam, what about you? You got a 94 movie that you want to...
I mean, it's Pulp Fiction. But if we're talking, here's the thing: if we're talking movies from this year that like are just fun to like kind of revisit, even as just as a guy in his late 30s. Shameless plug, Blank Check,
Yes.
which we covered on Below Freezing, and also another youth sports movie. This is my youth baseball movie. Is Angels in the Outfield.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
I really
What a cast.
I really dig that movie.
Yeah, that's a good one. Tony Danza being another guy named Tony.
I can't rewatch that movie. It made me too emotional when I was a kid.
Right?
The
Yeah.
dad is such a dick.
Yeah.
Yes.
Once he traded his truck for the motorcycle, you knew it was done. And Gordon-Levitt just couldn't get it, and he's out there flapping.
Oh
Like
God!
Doc Brown
I
is out
can't.
there just helping, lost in the quantum realm. It was
Tony Danza trying to close out the game.
Yes. See, and I grew up with extremely an extremely functioning family where like my parents are still together. So I didn't have any concept for like maybe a dad would leave, and it wrecked me. It was not until I watched Artificial Intelligence AI that I was like, oh God, and moms can leave too. It was bad. So I can't revisit it. It would just destroy me again.
If it wasn't for Rick Moranis getting my honorary award, I would have gotten Chris Lloyd because, I mean, he was in Angels in the Outfield and Camp Nowhere, which are both just like right up my 9-year-old self
Fair.
alley.
Yeah. Camp Nowhere, just them with all the money, all the things they buy. I remember when they opened the truck, being like, all of those make sense. That is exactly what a group of 10-year-olds would buy.
Absolutely. Yeah. Blank Check. Good shout there, too. I recently just showed my boys Blank Check, and they had a blast with it, even though it's like super
And
dated.
they're trying to make out with 40-year-olds now.
They were like, "Why don't we have this mansion, Dad?" I don't
Listen,
know.
I'm on record about that movie, so
I have not seen that since I was a kid.
Me too.
All right, another friend of the show, Dan Edwards, over at Dan Loves Film on Instagram, asked us, "Has there ever been a more iconic Best Picture lineup?" We had
yes.
we had some strong ones. Adam, obviously, you say yes. Do you have one that comes to mind right away where you're like, that's a superior one?
1975.
Yeah,
That's the one.
That's one.
Right.
Yeah. That's the answer.
That's Barry Lyndon, Dog Day, Jaws, Nashville, Cuckoo's Nest.
Sure.
Nothing coming to mind, Britt?
I'm not really an Oscars person. Like, I like them. It's fine. I'll watch the Oscars. I loved I love watching people sing whenever they have people singing live in quotations at the Oscars. But it's just not something that I really look into. And now I have to because I'm on a podcast about movies. So I'm learning as I go.
That's one of the big reasons why I wanted to have you on the show is because I wanted you to join me in like taking down the Oscars because I feel like
no problem. Happy. I will take
you're
down
happy to
any
just-
institution.
yeah, I looked into this because I didn't want to come in blind. 74, 75, 76 is like the 27 Yankees of Oscars lineups because 74 is Chinatown, Conversation, Godfather 2, Lenny, Towering Inferno. 75 we already just listed off. 76 is then All the President's Men, Bound for Glory, Network, Rocky, Taxi Driver. It's just like bang, bang, bang. 74, 75, 76. Coincidentally, next year we'll be doing 75 and 76 on the podcast around this time. And then Joey, I don't know if you're maybe pulling up some Oscars lineups.
I was just about to say, I'm going to look some up online right now to see what I think. Where's all the horror movie questions? Come on.
One underrated year I'll quickly talk about is 2007 had Atonement, Juno, Michael Clayton, No Country, and There Will Be Blood. That's a pretty phenomenal 5.
I could talk about Michael Clayton for 8 hours. I love that film so much. And The Closet is the greatest closet I've ever seen in my life in Michael Clayton.
53's From Here to Eternity, Julius Caesar, Roman Holiday, Shane.
That's a good one.
Year. Yeah. And 39's Gone with the Wind, Wizard of Oz, Stagecoach, Wuthering Heights. But I mean, that's Gone with the Wind, Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, another one that I kind of
Men.
liked, 97, had a cool little mix. It was Titanic winning, obviously, and then you had LA Confidential, Good Will Hunting, Full Monty, and as good as it gets. Just a lot of variety. in that from '97.
It's the full Monty. That's so funny.
Bizarre.
It's such a funny nomination.
It was back when like the Oscars would like have fun and give a fun movie an award like that.
Now it's just like, oh, it's got to be prestigious. So we have to make sure that it really is something that people are going to want to research later, right?
All right, let's go to another question from Adam Freed, our buddy over at Movie Archer. He asked, and this goes out to everyone individually, who were you specifically as a moviegoer in '94? And Adam gave me a little anecdote that he was 13 at the time. He wanted to desperately sneak into an R-rated film. He thought he was ready for Pulp Fiction. The shot of adrenaline as the cure for an OD was the official end of his youthful innocence. And with that, I'll throw it out to the group. How old were you in '94? What were you as a moviegoer?
I mean, I've talked about this here. I was 10. I was, watching mostly Mighty Ducks and The Crow and Speed a lot. But then, also for some reason,
The
Client.
Client
A lot. And a lot of these, I watch Reality Bites when I could. Like, I watch as much as I could get my hands on. Just like now.
I distinctly remember as soon as it was available to rent, there was a weekend that my dad had me and my sister, and my dad had a lady friend over, and they were watching Color of Night, and I tried to continuously sneak into the room to watch it, because I don't know if you've seen Color of Night, but there is a lot of boobies in that movie, and a very curious 8-year-old Adam was like, "What's happening? I want to know more about what's going on in this movie." Which it really, and at that point, should surprise nobody that Pulp Fiction is my favorite film of all time. So,
Britt, how about you?
I was 5. So I was obviously watching a lot of horror movies. No, I guess it was The Lion King, honestly. Like, that was probably the first movie that I ever saw in theater was 101 Dalmatians with my dad. And I only remember that because I kept trying to grab the tiny girl in front of me. She had a beautiful bow in her hair, and it's like a core memory of my dad being like, "You can't take other people's hair pieces." And I was like, "But it's so pretty." So I remember going to see that, and I remember going to see The Lion King. The next year, though, Rumble in the Bronx came out with Jackie Chan, and it changed my life. I love Rumble in the Bronx, and that
you saw it at 6?
Oh yeah, 100%. My parents didn't care. My parents were like, "You're fine. If you have issues, you can sleep. You'll figure it out. Self-soothe." So I really appreciate my parents for that. And truly, actually, I do. They're the best. But yeah, no, I genuinely remember watching Rumble in the Bronx, and I think that's why I love action movies.
Yeah, this question kind of like brought back the Prep, because the Prep was sort of like a nostalgia shot right into my veins, because I was watching all these things that I remember visceral experiences seeing in theaters. Richie Rich.
Oh God! Oh my God! Oh jeez!
The mechanical bee.
He had the McDonald's in his house.
Yes.
So jealous.
Yeah.
Yes. In Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
The Santa Claus I remember seeing in the theater.
Same.
The Mask, I distinctly remember seeing The Mask on
It scared the
VHS.
shit out of me, but I rewatched it for this episode, and I was like, I love The Mask.
yeah.
I love it.
Then the one that kind of like Adam, to your point about a movie I was trying to get my hands on because it was like, it seemed taboo at the time. I remember Milk Money. And like, I remember like the parents were like, "You can't look at this," because the cover was like very like sexualized, and it was like, I don't know what's on this tape, but I have to get my hands on it, and the movie's like a lot tamer than it would lead you to believe.
Yeah, it was on Comedy Central all the time, but yes.
Right.
I've never heard of this film.
Oh,
I have no
I
idea.
forgot about that movie.
Yeah, I went down the deep rabbit hole in 1994, so.
You were watching Three Ninjas.
Three Ninjas, absolutely.
Nice.
Oh, I watched Three Ninjas too. I remember that one.
Yeah, 94 was fun. This was definitely like the perfect year to kind of remind myself of childhood. Okay, our next question is actually a trivia question we got from Kirby Taylor over at Popcorny Movies on Instagram.
That's what we want, homework. Thanks.
So Kirby asked us which 2 Academy Award winners were originally wanted for the lead roles in Dumb and Dumber. This was totally news to me. Do any of you have a clue before we got Jeff Daniels and Jim Carrey. Who was going to be in the Dumb and Dumber roles?
They were nominated or won, but
These actors who almost got the role are both Academy Award winners.
So I'm going to say one is Tom Hanks.
Yeah, that was going to be mine.
Not necessarily in that year.
No, I still would.
But Tom Hanks is
Yeah,
definitely...
I still would have went Tom Hanks.
Think crazier.
Oh,
Way
obviously
crazier.
Martin Landau. Like, obviously, yeah. He's going to be in Dumb and Dumber,
Jessica
right?
Lange and Diane Wiest.
That's it. Right there.
There's no way you're ever going to probably get these two. But if you
Gene
want
Hackman.
Sure. I'm going to go with that.
So the
Tom Hanks and Gene Hackman. That's my answer.
the Jim Carrey role of Lloyd was almost given to Gary Oldman.
Oh,
Which
weird.
I can't fathom that.
No.
No.
And the Jeff Daniels role of Harry almost went to Nicolas Cage, which I can actually see in a weird way.
It's a very different movie. No.
But Nick Cage would commit, obviously.
Yes.
Do we want him to, though? Like, that's the problem. Sometimes maybe he commits too much.
Are you thinking of a particular movie?
Everything.
Vampire's Kiss, probably.
100%
God,
Vampire's
yeah.
Kiss.
Oh, wow.
Mandy. I know. I love certain aspects of Mandy, but he's way too much in Mandy. I think the only... I don't think I like him in anything, basically.
Jesus.
Erroneous.
Wild at Heart?
I hate Wild
No,
at
she's
Heart.
not a.
I'm
Britt is
not a
Wild at Heart
I'm
fan.
not a Wild at Heart.
That was not the one to
fan.
throw out.
Nope. Adaptation. I like him in Adaptation.
Oh, good. Yeah.
He's
Oh,
really, really good in Adaptation, and I think
What about
it's-
Leaving Las Vegas?
Leaving Las Vegas, he's good in as well. And I think in both those movies, he did what the director said, which was against his own instincts as an actor. And I'm like, maybe go with that, buddy. Maybe don't do what you think would be best and listen to the director. Yeah, not a fan.
Yeah, I don't know what Dumb and Dumber would have been with Gary Oldman and Nick Cage, but I don't think it's going to be what it became. So thanks for that trivia, Kirby. Next question is Question Queen Heather back again. She said Red and Andy are one of her favorite enduring movie friendships. Do you all have any favorite movie friendships?
Woody and Buzz.
That was one of the first ones that came to my mind. Han and Chewie was another that came pretty quickly to my mind.
John McClane and Zeus in Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Bill and Ted.
Ooh, Bill and Ted. There's some recency bias to this, and it's an honorable mention, but I put Beam and Raju from RRR. They're like the modern day brothers.
Yes.
I love those two guys.
That's a good one.
How about Ron Burgundy and the Channel 4 News team?
Ah, that's a great one.
If you
Maverick and Goose.
Yeah. If you want to stick with Farrell, you've got Ricky Bobby and Cal Naughton.
I was going to say like the four guys in The Ritual, but that's where I go to. Like, yeah, that's a good friendship.
Oh, man. Britt's always just like out in left field. I love it.
Yep.
Timon and Pumbaa. What are we doing?
Oh,
There you go.
yeah.
Here.
Timon and Pumbaa, for sure.
I thought Rocky and Apollo, Frodo and Sam from Lord of the Rings came to mind.
I think that's
What's a
debatable.
Frodo?
Oh, stop it, Joey. My God.
I almost didn't include that because I knew it was going to devolve.
There's a reason why I'm never going to suggest that on our podcast,
Frodo,
and it's
it's
because
just
I don't need
Is it a
Joey's
dessert?
opinion.
Dessert? What is it? I'm asking questions for.
Well, if any other...
What about Thelma and Louise? Is that a good
There you
one?
go. That's a great one.
Is it good or is it just toxic?
Oh. I don't know.
I mean, they're just blindly supportive.
That's not a good thing. You shouldn't be blindly supportive of anybody, though I am blindly supportive of my crew. I will support you.
Holy Trinity.
To the
blindly
Holy Trinity
supportive.
until the end of time. I guarantee it.
Yeah. What are we doing?
Well,
Yeah,
if
back
any,
to what's a Frodo?
if any other friendships come up, just shout them out. As I'm going to go into the next question, but feel free to come back to this one. So another one from Heather is, she said this is one of her favorite years to get annoyed with. She means discuss. She asked us to rank all the movie portrayals of Joe March from Little Women. Britt, we're going to be going to you definitely first on this one.
Oh, God, no.
So there have been 6 Little Women films, lost version in
Sure
1917.
haven't
which
watched all
I'm sure
those.
we've all seen the 1917 lost version.
Yes.
There's a 1918 version. There's a 1933 version with Katharine Hepburn. There's a 1949 version, the 1994 version, and finally Greta's 2019 version. Britt, how many Little Women have you seen? And
I've seen
how are you going to rank them?
3. I've seen 3. So I've seen the Katharine Hepburn version, the Winona Ryder version, and the Saoirse Ronan version, and that's how I would rank them. I love Saoirse Ronan as Jo. I think she was the perfect pick. I think that is probably a perfect film along with Pulp Fiction. I will say that I went to go see that. It was one of the last movies I saw in theater before COVID hit. I went with my bestie Katie, and we sobbed in every scene. It was the most embarrassing I've ever been in a movie. I have never cried harder. I had to like grab my scarf and use it to like dab my eyes and blow my nose. I'm not even kidding. Like I couldn't handle it. So yeah, Saoirse Ronan is 100% tops for me. So good. Even though the 1994 is my Little Women. She's too good.
I have not seen the 33 version. Is Katharine Hepburn a good Jo March? I assume so.
Yeah,
Katharine
she's
Hepburn.
great. She's great. But she's not my Jo March. My Jo March was Winona Ryder forever.
It's fair.
Forever until Saoirse Ronan, and now she's my Jo March.
Joey,
Greta
what about
Gerwig
you?
forever.
How many Little Women have you seen?
2, the 94 one and the Greta one. I'm probably biased against the 94 ones.
We're
because
fighting.
My sister, and I'm not saying it's fair. I'm just saying my sister had it on a lot, so I had to watch it a lot. And
I get
again, I was 10, so I was kind of a pain in the ass about it.
Not Joey.
Admittedly,
No.
but I love the Greta Gerwig one. I think that's just a fantastic movie.
Adam, what about you? How many Little Women have you seen?
Well, I have 3 Little Women upstairs right now that I see all the time. I've seen 1.5 of Little Women, and I don't think there's any real way of it's Saoirse Ronan.
I feel like Britt's like gearing up to put on boxing gloves at this point.
Okay, can I just say that Britt's literary corner also exists because I've read it, which is a thing on 1001. Sometimes I read the books that
and
go
we appreciate you doing the work.
Thank you.
Very
Thank you.
much so. There's a great Simpsons episode where Moe reads Little Women to homeless.
Oh my God.
It is just
Over my
it is
head.
glorious.
It's so good.
Crying.
It's so good.
Oh, it's so funny.
Oh, I've only seen the 94 and the Greta version. I'd actually not seen the 94 one prior to this. I love Greta's version. This is definitely not in my wheelhouse of style of film. That's much more my wife's thing. But I think Saoirse Ronan is beautiful in that role. I also give it a quick shout out to there's a 2017 miniseries of Little Women, and Maya Hawke plays Jo.
Oh,
And
okay.
she's really good in it too.
I haven't watched it. I do like Maya Hawke though.
That was why I watched it. She's
Yeah.
in it. And Ethan's in it, and
Yeah,
I'll
she's
watch
great.
anything he's in.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'll go with Greta's version. I think Greta's Little Women is about a perfect movie for what it is.
For
Okay,
what it
Joey.
is. No.
That's not a knock. That's not a knock.
It sounded like
I don't want to pick a fight with Britt
Felt like a knock.
It did. But
for what it is, which is not my thing.
What it is, which is a
Fair.
piece of crap.
I'm
Joey-
fighting with everybody on this episode. My God, Little Women forever.
Well, you definitely have a backer in Heather. Heather online is definitely a Little Women champion, so you two can celebrate it together.
Perfect. We're best friends now. It's fine.
Now, Joey, it's my understanding you have actually brought a submitted question to the table from another Best Picture cast crew member, Oz.
Yes,
I have no clue
Oz,
what this is, so let's turn it over to you.
Yeah, he submitted it to me. So Greg says, while making your pick for Best Picture, did you factor in cultural relevancy? Pulp Fiction is my all-time number 1, and Shawshank is flawless, but taking the award away from Gump feels wrong. The movie is so well known that a restaurant was created based off a character with approximately 11 minutes of screen time.
Interesting. Adam, you take a stab at this first.
I mean, I that's the thing about this year is that the 3 of these movies are all culturally relevant. Pulp
think
Fiction,
that's-
Shawshank, and Forrest Gump. So I mean, and some of you did I think at least a few of you had all three of those in your nominees, right?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I did.
So I think you factor it in because they're all relevant. If somebody, I wish I don't want to say anything too outlandish, but like if somebody picked Ed Wood as their Best Picture winner, I think you'd have a lot of like, wait, over Shawshank, Forrest Gump, and Pulp Fiction, like what are you doing?
Right.
But I think to pick one of those three, you picked one of the movies from that year that have stood the test of time.
Yeah, I think the only thing that like could have been argued is Lion King.
I agree with that. But
Yeah.
a couple of us did have Lion King in our nominations. So
Yeah.
I think we did take in cultural relevance and still have a little bit of flair in there, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. That's a fair point in terms of like the significance of Forrest Gump creating this like behemoth restaurant franchise, which is fascinating in and of itself. But, Shawshank certainly owes a lot of its cultural relevance to just the readily available nature of it on cable television throughout most of our lifetimes. And I mean, I think Pulp Fiction is the most culturally relevant of the three, which is kind of a big reason why I picked it. And it's because it's created this director who's arguably the most important director of the last 30 years to a degree, in my opinion.
That's fair. That's a fair opinion. Quentin Tarantino has some issues, but is great at the same time.
Joey, do you want to weigh in any further on Oz's question?
Yeah, no, I think Adam kind of nailed it, that there's just three very culturally relevant movies. So it's not like, scraping for different reasons. So I think that's what makes it, when there's culturally relevant movies 30 years later that are all, very good. It's a good, difficult choice to have. I didn't particularly think of it in terms of cultural relevancy. No, but I think, it's one of those things as you're rewatching, you think about how many times you watched it. And all those fun things. I mean, I have a stupid Gump jersey for some reason.
Part of the general nature of the concept of this show is looking back and looking at what's the footprint of a film in culture. Like that's the whole genesis of this. So to answer Oz's question, that for me at least is always factored into a degree, is like how has a movie aged and remained in the zeitgeist and in the cultural world at large, and that definitely plays a factor in a lot of times to what I pick. So I would say very much it's hand in hand for me. So appreciate Oz sending that question over to you, Joey. We've got another one from Chauncey Talise, who asked us, is there a career, a genre, or something that would have altered if a particular movie had either succeeded or failed? And Chauncey gave me a few examples. He said maybe Jim Carrey's successful 94 run if it doesn't happen, if Rob Reiner's North doesn't bomb, or if Forrest Gump doesn't become a cultural supernova. So it's sort of a what-if game that he asked us to play. If anyone wants to take a stab at it, it's kind of an open-ended question.
Just so many of these movies really have stuck around for so long in different ways, so it's hard. I don't know.
I mean, Jim Carrey's the obvious one that he pointed to right in his example. Like if The Mask or Dumb and Dumber or Ace Ventura, if all of those don't hit, maybe we don't see him become the Jim Carrey that he became, which is this hugely successful comedian over time. That's probably the one that stands out because 94 was a really landmark year for him.
I mean, I guess the one I would maybe go down the rabbit hole with is if we extend into how bad Shawshank did at the box office, for some reason that doesn't equate to the Oscar nominations. Does it end up being this TNT TBS rewatch? Or does it just, kind of fall into obscurity? Does it become, and I don't believe this, but does it become a Blue Sky or a Nell or a Nobody's Fool? And,
no, I think it would have become like a cult classic, right? Like, because as we were talking about this, I was thinking about Ed Wood and how Ed Wood wasn't a very successful film, but it did get an Oscar nomination. Therefore, it kind of became this cult classic, right? So would Shawshank have just become a cult classic in the way that Ed Wood became?
Yeah. And even to Shawshank's a good example, Adam. I'm glad you kind of pointed to that because it could have just ended up as another one of those Stephen King adaptations, which is looked upon as very good, great movies, but not like number one. People look back on Misery and they don't consider it an all-time great, or Stand By Me, there's a lot of King stuff that's not in that like rarefied air for most people.
Fair.
Yeah.
Well, good question from you, Chauncey. We got 2 more for you. We've got one from Ralph Esparza, who will be a season 2 guest, and he reached out and said, "Do you feel that Natural Born Killers was ahead of its time?" Very specific. Adam, I'm going to go to you first because you were kind of the one that of the 3 of us was most into Natural Born Killers based on your nominations. Was it ahead of its time?
I think I have to give like a real like douche answer to that, which is yes and no. I think when it came out, yes, I do. I do think that there was a lot it was trying to say about consumerism and the way that we were and still are very much engaged with true crime as a genre. I mean that is there. No, in the sense that 30 years later, Natural Born Killers is a mess. It just is.
Yeah,
it is. And so like I do think at the time like it was, like how brave Nell was. Natural Born Killers was also like, wow,
So brave.
Look at what's happening here.
Oh my God.
So I don't, so that's my answer. Take that for what it's worth.
Britt, what about you? How do you feel about Natural Born Killers being ahead of its time?
Oh, I do think it was ahead of its time in certain regards, especially with the media and the inflation of true crime, how the media portrays it for shock journalism. I think that was super ahead of its time, and I think it's a really important thing that we all should be considering. I don't know if I'd put it in the same boat as Nell, but that's okay. It's not my favorite film, but I also appreciate certain things that it has to say. I also think that true crime is a difficult it's a difficult media to dissect because it's really easy to hate things that that have a very female demographic, and that's the interesting thing about Natural Born Killers, because it's not for a female demographic at all, like whatsoever. It is a very masculine film made for a masculine audience, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's a little weird considering it's true crime, and mostly it's a lot of women that enjoy true crime. Not everybody that enjoys true crime is women. It's just the most common demographic. So that's what I have to say about that.
Joey, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys nailed it. I think a lot of ways, yes, and I think that's just but that's also every time I watch it, I like it less.
Yeah,
I think it's just, I think when you're younger, it's really cool, and then as you get into it, well, yes, the true crime stuff and the media stuff is all very there, but then there's just a lot of stuff that I think takes away from the substance a little bit.
It's pretty messy.
Just kind of loses it. Yeah. So like 10 years, 15 years ago, I'd be like, oh yeah, I really like that movie. Now I'm like, I like Tom Sizemore.
Right.
Downey Jr.'s doing an interesting role for sure in that one.
He's doing a weird accent because he thought he could.
Yes. It's like his Tropic Thunder prep, before he really just goes off the deep end.
He said that it was easier to do an Australian accent than it was to do an English accent. And I was like, I don't know what accent you're doing, but okay, have fun.
Yeah, I'm with you 3 on kind of the whole nature of the movie. I think I had a few comments online. People were basically saying this movie is a tale of 2 halves. It's really disjointed in parts. And I think, especially when you look at the pedigree of Stone, he'd already won a Best Picture with Platoon. He had done JFK. He'd done some other really meaty stuff. And this one was more experimental and more renegade, if you will, or whatever. And it feels messy. And maybe by intention, it's supposed to feel messy. But I don't, Joey, I'm kind of with you. Every time I go back and watch it, I don't feel as good about it as I did when I was, 20. And I was like, oh, this is a cool movie. I don't know how cool it is as a movie anymore, but it's not network ahead of its time. It's not like we're not talking about it in that category. But
yeah, that's true.
Okay, final question we got was from an Instagram friend and a show follower, Mr. Movies, who asked us to weigh in on one of the more interesting unanswered questions in movie history. Now, what exactly do we think is in the briefcase in Pulp Fiction? Adam, this is a favorite movie all time for you. I'm sure you've probably thought about this. You've probably read about it. What what theory do you abide by in terms of what's in the briefcase in Pulp Fiction?
I have always been a pretty big believer in the idea that it is Marcellus Wallace's soul. And I get if Tarantino wants to denounce it, or people just don't believe that that's true, and that's fine. There are just too many coincidences. The fact that they continue to talk about divine intervention as the movie goes on, and then there are so many wormholes you can go down. The one I love the most is that Sam Jackson survives because he acknowledges the divine intervention, but then Vincent Vega is brutally gunned down because he doesn't. And if you choose to believe it, if you go that way, and then you watch the movie subsequently, you can put a lot of those pieces together, and it does make it an extra fun watch.
Britt, what about you? Do you have a theory you abide by?
Well, I mean, I can't take Adam's answer, so I like the idea. I have two that I like. I like that it's Elvis's gold jumpsuit. Like, absolutely, let's go there. But I also, the one that I like after Adam's answer, which was very a very good job, is that it's the loot from Reservoir Dogs. So it's like the diamonds.
Oh.
Yeah. And I'm like, sure, yeah, absolutely. I love Reservoir Dogs. Let's make this a whole thing. So that's what I go with.
Joey, what about you? Where do you stand on it?
Yeah, I've always been with that it's his soul, but I do love the Reservoir Dogs one.
Yeah.
I want that to be. That's the one I want to be true, but I do think it's his soul.
Yeah, I'm on the soul bandwagon for sure. Between like the Band-Aid on Marcellus's neck, and it's like everything feels connected. I hope it's not the Reservoir Dogs thing, because like I feel like that's what derailed this whole Quentin Tarantino movie that he just scrapped, which is like he's trying to interconnect all of his films and make it feel like perfect and tidy, and it's like, do we really have to do that and like make it this big grandiose thing? Like, let the fans create their own theories, and that kind of makes it more fun and magical. Is like, we don't know what it is and what it isn't, like if you're gonna like make it very definitive, it takes away sort of the magic of movie making for me. So I like the soul idea for sure.
Agreed.
Okay, we're gonna close everything out tonight with something that ties directly back to you all on the 1001 by One podcast, which you're all terrific on, by the way.
Oh.
So there are, I believe, Joey, you're going to have to quote me on this, 21 total movies from this year in the book.
So many. When we talked about this, I thought it was going to be like 5. I regret everything.
There's a lot from 94 in the book. Many of which are popular ones, which we've already talked about plenty tonight. And I'll put the full list on social media when this goes up. But something we're going to do to close out the show is we're each going to have the ability to put one film from 94 into the book that we feel like deserves to be in there that's not already in there. So, Joey, before we each give our pick, what movies are in the book for 1994?
Oh, God.
Yeah, I got the list. The Lion King, The Last Seduction, The Wild Reeds, Crumb, Heavenly Creatures, Three Colors, Red, Natural Born Killers, Muriel's Wedding, The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, Hoop Dreams, Santango, Clerks, Four Weddings and a Funeral, Forrest Gump, Shawshank Redemption, Caro Diario, Chungking Express, The Kingdom, La America. That's the list, yeah.
That's a weird list. There was a lot more like international stuff that I had not heard of or seen.
Yeah.
And I didn't get around to this time.
In your 100 films, how dare you?
I know, right? I almost like went back and covered the rest of them. I'm like, I don't have fucking time for that. I have a lot of time, but not time for that. I'm going to put Crooklyn in. That's my pick.
Hell yeah.
Spike only has a couple of films in the book, and Malcolm X isn't one of them, which is also fascinating to me. Like, how's Malcolm X not in the book? I don't know. So I'm going to say Crooklyn should be in the book for Spike. He needs that alongside Do the Right Thing.
I'm going to jump in because I don't want anybody to take it. And I'm obviously putting in Queen Margot, my favorite movie of 1994. I will talk about this movie for the rest of my life. I want a t-shirt with Isabella Johnny covered in blood on it. Like, I love Queen Margot and I want everybody to watch it. So that's my choice.
Excellent.
Mine is Reality Bites. I think it's a perfect example of the early 90s and the idea of sellouts and, getting into the MTV what that would mean to TV and culture and I think were ahead of everything. I think Ethan Hawke's fantastic in it.
So my answer is quiz show kind of, but because the book gets really up its own ass, I actually think what we need is Dumb and Dumber in the book.
Yes.
That's great.
I dig it.
We can't take this too seriously.
It's not about taking it seriously. It's just Dumb and Dumber. Okay, I don't like Dumb and Dumber, so I understand why you would want to put it there, but I actually don't.
I mean, you three have all dug through
too
this.
Funny.
It's not funny at all. I find nothing funny about Dumb and Dumber. But Adam, I respect you as part of the Holy Trinity. I don't know what part you are. Are you the Father? Are you the Son? Who knows?
Frankincense. I'm frankincense. We discussed this at the beginning.
Part of the Holy Trinity.
I know, but it's funnier. It's funnier when I say
It's way
that.
funnier that way.
Is it? Because I'm just now I'm just like, who's the Father? Who's the Son? Oh my God, I need to go pray.
I have to be the Father because I was
100%.
the long-standing. I get it.
You're the Father. You're the frankincense. It's fine.
Speaking about Dumb and Dumber, you guys have dug into the book deeply through all your drafting and looking through it and everything. Is there anything on the level of Dumb and Dumber in the book? Like, are they up their own ass across the board, or is there some stuff?
Yeah.
So you do have, and I think this also shows, like, the contributors of the book, like some of the Zucker and Abrams stuff is in there. Naked Gun is in there. Airplane is in there. The good Mel Brooks, Young Frankenstein, Blazing Saddles, the producers. But I feel like once you get past the 80s, the kind of, slapstick dumb comedies that we really like. I mean, I'd have to go back with a fine-tooth comb, but the comedies that I think that we grew up on, there's nothing like that really in the book.
Well, I mean, let's be real. We've talked about it multiple times in the book. They're so heavy-handed before the 1960s, and it's
Right.
wild that 600 pages are dedicated to anything before 1988, which has 18,000 films, and it could use with this book. Somebody needs to go through it with a fine-tooth comb and be like, actually, maybe we don't need the Thin Man in here anymore. Maybe we should take the Treasure of the Sierra Madre out, or Henry the Fifth, or Henry the Eighth, depending on who you ask. And
Good point.
Both.
The book is so heavy-handed towards the back end, where it is like those comedies are, they were the slapstick comedies of the time. We need a redo. We need a redo of this book. So
I agree for sure with that. Well, Joey, thank you guys for letting me tie that all back into 1001 by 1. That does it for the recording, but this is only the beginning, because now that we have our picks made, it will ultimately be up to you, the fans, to decide what goes into the Almanac as the true winners. We'll be putting up social media polls across 4 social media platforms in the coming days, and we need your votes to be cast. The more places you follow the page, the more opportunity you have. Now, before we sign off, let's just talk a little bit about what's to come up summer of 2024. This episode's going up the first Friday in July. You all three have a lot of stuff going on, so I'm going to let you each take a turn and kind of let me know what's going on in your world. Joey, I'm going to go over to you first. What's going on with the Best Picture Cast crew this summer?
Oh, we always have new things coming out. Our sub 50 tournament and horror tournament are in the works. We're finishing up the current season, so there's a few, 5 more Best Picture winners till we get to our next rankings. The big thing is in September, we're doing a live Jurassic Park episode at the Huntington Cinema Arts Center, which we're all looking forward to.
It's a big, big deal. I'm super excited for you guys to do that. Can't wait to see how it turns out for you.
Yeah, we're very excited for that.
Now, Adam, you and your wife, Melissa, Below Freezing, one of my favorite shows to listen to. It's the perfect workout show if you just want a nice, relaxing, fun time. Melissa will make you laugh throughout every episode. What do you guys got going on over there this summer?
Oh, yeah. Here's the thing. We never really know what we're doing next. We have wrapped up Twilight by this point.
the best. I'm obsessed with it.
I will say that I know that we have some people lined up to do episodes that we haven't done. We haven't recorded them yet. Kieran from Best Picture Cast may or may not be doing a movie starring Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yes.
We might be doing a sequel to a movie that we did early on involving a dentist. I'm actually really wanting to. I bought this really cheap collection of Bruce Willis movies, and I didn't realize how many of Bruce Willis's movies actually qualify for the podcast. And I love Bruce Willis.
So many.
So I'm wanting to do a Bruce Willis tribute season. But I do, the one that I know that we're doing soon is we're going to have both of our kids back on the show to talk about a movie I've never seen called Kangaroo Jack. So that is on the horizon.
I don't know what that is.
Good luck to you all on that one.
Have seen Kangaroo Jack. So
there you go.
Yes.
You're getting the kids back involved. That's amazing.
Yes.
All right, and Britt, we're going to go over to you to close it out, and you're going to be the designated 1001 by 1 person. What do you got going on over there this summer?
We've got a lot going on this summer. We had you on for L'Âge d'Or, the longest 60-minute film in our lives. We also have an episode on Jean Dielman coming out. I'm not going to do the rest of it because I didn't practice like Adam did on the episode. We have The Good, the Bad, and the Weird, which is going to be wild, I assume. And we also have I'm pretty excited. We're doing another draft for our next season, which is the next thing we will be recording, which I'm very excited about.
Britt loves drafts.
This is my second one ever, so woohoo!
I think she's really getting into them though, based on what I've seen and heard.
No,
She's good at it. Hey,
I asked what else is there other than a snake draft. I have no idea.
For listeners of the show, the draft is definitely one of the highlights of the season for you guys over there. And Adam, you're always bringing new wrinkles to the format with the draft. I'm sure you've got something up your sleeve over there for Britt and Joey that they're not aware of.
No, I think they know everything so far. Although it is funny, I am thinking about how I can fuck with that before we record next week. So
excellent.
Nothing is set yet, but it might happen. And by might, I mean it will.
I mean,
I accept it and I'm waiting.
Yeah, same. Do your worst.
I'm excited to listen.
Father. Never again. That was so weird. I don't like it. Canon.
And with that, look out for the upcoming 8th episode of this show in August, where I will be joined by 2 returning guests. I've got Grant Z from Best Picture Cast and the Worst Picture Cast, who featured on the 2011 episode. And I've got Tom Duncan from the Greatest Movie of All Time podcast, who you should know very well from 1998 and 2005. We're going to be covering 2014's year in film, which is the year Birdman took the crown. You can again find me on Instagram, Twitter, Letterboxd, Threads, TikTok, Facebook, everywhere, Rev Almanac. There's going to be timestamps on this episode for each category, so you can go back and listen to certain parts again. And you can also find the links to Adam, Britt, and Joey's shows, plural, so you can keep up with everything the 3 of them are doing. Adam, you're going to be back in October covering the 2015 year and Spotlight. Britt, you're going to be back in November covering the year 1996, which is The English Patient. And Joey, sadly, we have to wait all the way until next spring to have you back, 1999 and American Beauty. But if you enjoyed the 1001 by 1 crew, they're all going to be back on the show plenty over the next year. What a night. What a life, what a moment, what everything, as Martin Landau said in 1994. I hope you 3 had as much fun as I did, and I'm sure the listeners did. That does it for the episode, and we will all see you next